Kiev, there are hundreds of homes and offices that have no heating at all. "It's warmer inside the fridge than in my flat," one woman said with a sad smile while drinking hot tea in a tent set up inside the park. People can warm up, get food, and charge phones in such shelters called invincibility points. They are widespread and powered by diesel generators. Those Russian officials who decided to weaponize the weather probably have never been to the Rusanivka island in Kiev. There is a popular outdoor gym there, full of rusty barbells and horizontal bars. I went there when it was only minus 17 degrees Celsius, and to my astonishment, I saw a group of men lifting weights and doing pull-ups there as if they were on a sunny beach. On the other side of the Dnipro River, people were out ice fishing. But my jaw dropped when I saw a middle-aged woman getting into the icy cold water for a swim. Her name was Svetlana. She dunked herself in the water several times before pulling herself out of the ice hole. While she was getting dressed, her wet swimsuit became rock hard. "I hate cold," Svetlana laughed. I didn't believe her. Cold is her daily reality now. Svetlana told me her apartment block lost heating when Russian missiles attacked a thermal power plant in Kiev early in January. Water in the pipes froze and radiators burst. Now it's 0 degrees Celsius in her flat, she says. To keep the air warm, Svetlana heats up bricks on a gas stove. She also pours hot water into plastic drink bottles and takes them to bed at night. At least she's got gas. Those who don't must come up with other ways to stay warm, like setting up a tent in their living room. Svetlana is worried about her elderly mother who is in hospital with pneumonia. She fears that once she is discharged and returns to her cold apartment, she may immediately get ill again. For Svetlana, diving in icy water helps to endure the hardships she is facing. We just need to look fear in the eye. Then it won't eat up our soul, she said. It's exactly for this reason last weekend some Ukrainians decided to throw a dance party on the frozen Dnipro River in a Kiev neighborhood in minus 19 degrees Celsius. Partygoers were treated to freshly made pancakes and hot food. Children screamed as they slid down the bank into the frozen river. A huge crowd gathered around the DJ and hopped to the beat. "We have neither electricity nor heating at home, so this is how we are trying to warm up," one young woman in a fluffy fur coat said, laughing. The crowd cheered, throwing their hands up in pure joy. "Sweet dreams are made of this," the 80s classic was blaring from the speakers. It did feel it was a dream. The war, Russian strikes and blackouts, they all suddenly seemed distant and unreal. This was the most uplifting story I have covered in Ukraine since the start of Russia's invasion. And this party was not just about resilience. It was also a sign of determination. The greater destruction Moscow brings, the stronger their resistance becomes.
Abdul-Jalil Abdurasulov reporting from Ukraine. That's all for this week. I'm Max Pearson. The producer was Phoebe Keane.
That was the BBC programme from our own correspondent. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we're live in our CBC studios on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, and on YouTube. I hope you had a great weekend. It's pretty warm out there this morning, actually. Feels very nice coming in. The streets of Winnipeg are mostly just wet, and we'll get more into the forecast in a moment. Let's say good morning to the team. We have May McKillop behind the controls this morning. Hi, May. May's teching the show, and Sierra Sanders is back again directing the program. We'll be covering weather traffic on the air, and there is Mr. Darren Marash directing YouTube, producing YouTube, doing everything YouTube. So say hi to Darren if you're watching the show stream there. It is 3 minutes to 6 o'clock on your Monday morning for the day. Here's what we can expect. This morning we'll start with cloud cover, winds northwest in Winnipeg, 20 20 to 40. The temperature will fall to -3 this afternoon, so it's going to be pretty mild as well. In Dauphin this morning, mainly cloudy, 30% chance of flurries, a high of -1. And in Brandon, you're expecting a high right around -2, and your temperature's falling to that with cloud cover. Up in Thompson, snow expected for you, 2 to 4 centimeters, and your high is going to be -13. We always start the show finding out what's happening in the news. So let's go to Heather Wells for headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Saturday morning fire in Winnipeg's West End has claimed the lives of 2 women. 3 people were taken to hospital in critical condition after that blaze on Agnes Street. An 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman have both died. The third person was upgraded to stable condition. Manitoba's growing measles case count and new exposure sites have health experts cautioning about large gatherings. The province says thousands may have been exposed to measles at Brandon's Ag Days last month. If you are not immunized for the highly contagious virus, experts suggest avoiding big public events. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, if you are a Patriots fan, you're waking up sad. A Seahawks fan, if you watched the Super Bowl last night, you're happy. We'll hear the latest in a moment on World Report about what happened in the game. Also, we're going to be talking about a social media site for chatbots. What could possibly go wrong? We're going to hear more about that in the first hour of the show. Yep, they're talking to each other. And then many Palestinian students with acceptances into Canadian universities have been waiting to get in, and we're going to find out all about what the delay is about.
Today on Q.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power.
Sometimes it's hard to know what to do.
My Father's Shadow is a deeply personal film from director Akinola Davis Jr., inspired by losing his father as a child. He'll be here to talk about the film and why telling Nigeria's lesser-known history matters to him.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ghislaine Maxwell will be questioned by a U.S. House committee today on her dealings with Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell is in prison serving a 20-year sentence for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls. But the committee may not get much out of her. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. And Willie, what are we expecting today?
That's right. Ghislaine Maxwell is expected to plead the Fifth later today when she appears from prison in front of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. According to U.S. media reports, she'll read from a prepared statement. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna, who co-led efforts to release the Epstein files, said in a letter that he believes Maxwell will refuse to answer questions. Maxwell is 4 years into a 20-year sentence for conspiring and helping Jeffrey Epstein to sexually exploit girls. The Oversight Committee is investigating the federal government's handling of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. They're expected to hear from former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton later this month.
Willie, the Department of Justice is allowing Congress to view unredacted Epstein files. What can you tell us about that?
So there's been widespread frustration with just how much information the Department of Justice redacted from the 3 million files it released pertaining to Epstein. Now lawmakers will have the opportunity to review the unaltered documents. They'll only be allowed to take notes, and their aides will not be allowed in. This comes after the House Judiciary Committee's ranking member, Democrat Jamie Raskin, sent a letter to the DOJ requesting access. In the letter, he said the committee wants to ensure that the redactions comply with the Act's requirement that materials be withheld only in narrow circumstances.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. The UK and European Union are calling for Jimmy Lai's immediate release. The former Hong Kong media tycoon was sentenced to 20 years in prison overnight. He was convicted of sedition and collusion with foreign powers under China's controversial security law. Lai often used his newspaper, the Apple Daily, to promote democracy and criticize Beijing. Ted Hui is a former Hong Kong legislator who now lives in Australia.
It is a textbook political verdict, and it is very, very harsh. I think the target of the regime is not genuine criminal conduct, not at all, but voices that stood for democracy, freedom, and pluralism.
Lai is 78 years old. His daughter says, quote, he will die a martyr behind bars. A Munich security conference reports the world has entered an era of uncertainty. The analysis builds on the case Prime Minister Mark Carney made during his Davos speech. As Murray Brewster tells us, it says Western nations should continue to defend their values even after the old world order has broken down.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
Prime Minister Mark Carney in Davos recently. A warning heard around the world that's now being amplified in a new report ahead of this week's Munich Security Conference.
We have ended up in a period of wrecking ball politics.
Sophie Eisentraut, head of research at the Munich Security Conference.
We are currently seeing the rise of political actors who do not promise reform or repair, but who are very explicit about wanting to tear down existing institutions. And we call them the demolition men.
If middle power nations that still subscribe to Western values of human rights and rule of law are going to band together, as Carney has suggested, it's going to require sustained investment, credibility, and trust. That's according to the Security Conference report released today. More importantly, they're going to have to show up for one another in times of crisis. It was at last year's Munich conference that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance launched a scalding attack on European democracies. Polling data that forms part of this year's report shows trust in the United States has eroded significantly, where 2/3 of respondents in Germany and absolute majorities in Canada, the United Kingdom, and France say Washington has become a less reliable ally, even a threat. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Portugal has a new socialist president. Supporters greet Antonio José Seguro after he won the rare runoff election. He took just over 66% of the vote. Seguro was facing a surge of support from the far right. In the end, the Chega party won just over 33%. But despite the loss, the party saw a substantial increase in support. Immigration and the cost of living were among the main election issues. An investigation by CBC News reveals over the past decade, hundreds of RCMP officers have faced disciplinary charges linked to gender-based violence. CBC received the data from the RCMP through access to information. It shows the allegations include sexual harassment, sexual assault, and domestic violence. As Julie Ireton reports, there is concern this may only be the tip of the iceberg.
And he was screaming and yelling, and neighbors called the police.
This woman describes the night the RCMP were called to her home. Officers found themselves investigating one of their own. CBC agreed not to name this woman. She fears telling her story could put her in danger. The RCMP brought disciplinary allegations against her ex-husband, including domestic violence and sexual assault. They asked her to testify.
But I was terrified. I thought, if I don't speak up now, this is never going to stop.
That case is just one of 639 over the past decade that include gender-based violence disciplinary charges. CBC has found that less than half of these cases against RCMP members were proven, and a significant number were dropped, mostly because they left the force.
It is critical that we start talking more about this issue.
Sunny Mariner is the national lead of the Improving Institutional Accountability Project. It examines policing data across the country.
One of the things that's really noteworthy in your numbers is that we can assume that this is a fractional number of the people who are actually experiencing violence.
Any number is concerning to me.
Mike Duham is the RCMP commissioner. He says the force has recently brought in new reforms.
I'm very excited about our new code of conduct that came in 2024. I don't pretend that we have something that's perfect, but we have something that's far better than what it was. Very aggressive.
And he says as far as gender-based violence is concerned, it's zero tolerance. Julie Ireton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some taxpayers who are disputing CRA errors face long and frustrating delays. A Go Public investigation revealed the agency is scrambling to hire staff to reduce the backlog. And as Sophia Harris reports, a new tax season is just around the corner.
Looks like it's gone up $36 again.
Bill Bisson refuses to pay his $3,400 tax penalty, so it keeps going up due to mounting interest.
But it goes up I don't know, every couple of weeks, I guess, every month.
The latest tally, nearly $3,900. Bison's tax advisor says the penalty is an obvious error, the result of the Canada Revenue Agency mistakenly doubling one of Bison's tax slips when assessing his 2023 return.
I mean, I've done nothing wrong.
His tax advisor filed a request to get the penalty dropped. 10 months later, Bison still waits for a resolution, even though the CRA's goal is to settle these cases within 6 months.
I just want it resolved. It's frustrating. It's created a lot of stress for me.
The CRA is warning of delays for certain disputes, tax adjustments, and penalty relief requests, blaming a surge in demand. Marc Briere is president of the Union for Tax Employees. He says the CRA exacerbated the problem by failing to renew contracts for 450 appeals branch workers last year.
We warned them of the impact it would have. It obviously made the situation worse. And they acknowledge that.
The tax agency did not confirm the job cuts, but did say it's working to reduce the backlog by streamlining, modernizing, and hiring more workers. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Bad Bunny is now a household name. His Super Bowl halftime show brought scenes from Puerto Rico into the living rooms of America. There was a roadside fruit stand, old men playing dominoes, people hard at work laying bricks. The celebration of Bad Bunny's home island was 13 minutes long, mostly in Spanish, and it featured a cameo by Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin. There was a lot of controversy leading up to this halftime show. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would not watch, but it seems he did. Online last night, Trump called it an affront to the greatness of America. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
A lot of people perking up too, right, when he named all the countries in the halftime show and he said Canada in the middle of all of it. Thanks for joining us this morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa, live from Manitoba, Canada. We're in downtown Winnipeg at CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. We'll get into your weather forecast in a moment. Our temperature is going to fall today, but we're starting really mild, and the rest of the day is actually going to be pretty warm as well. This hour on the show, it sounds like science fiction, but here we are in 2026. What happens when artificial intelligence agents start talking to each other without the aid of humans? We're going to talk about a social media site for chatbots to talk to each other. Stay tuned. What could go wrong? Also this hour on the show, many Palestinian students with acceptances into Canadian universities, and University of Manitoba is on that list, by the way, have been waiting up to 20 months for their visas. We're going to talk to a professor about what's going on with the delay. So that's ahead, as well as Olympic reports, remember, at 25 past the hour. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for headlines.
Good morning. 2 women have died after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to a home on Agnes Saturday morning. Police say an 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman who were taken to hospital in critical condition have since died. A third person who was critical has now been upgraded to stable. The cause of that fire is under investigation. A Manitoba justice has certified a class action lawsuit against the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the former operator of a care home where there was a deadly COVID-19 outbreak. The deaths of 56 residents at the Maples long-term care home were linked to an outbreak at that facility between October 2020 and January 2021. The class action was launched by the late residents' family members, and the allegations have not yet been proven in court. I'll be back with more details on those stories and others in our next news at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells with us throughout the morning, of course, in the show. Right now, let's get into the weather forecast. Winnipeg, our temperature is going to fall. So right now, it is partly mainly cloudy. It is 1 degree. Winds are west at 7. We're going to fall to about -3 this afternoon. Still cloudy. Winds will be northwest 20 to 40 for the day. Cloud cover tonight. Chance of flurries. Into tomorrow, some clearing and a high of -7. By Thursday, we could also be above zero once again. So we'll see. Over in Brandon, because it's your first forecast, so just get you around here quick. Brandon, cloudy, 2 degrees right now. Your temperature's falling to -2 this afternoon as well. Very similar to Winnipeg overnight, low -10. Sunshine tomorrow, -6, and could be above zero by Thursday. And up in Thompson, you're expecting snow, 2 to 4 centimeters of snow for you today. And your high is going to be right around -13. Tonight, chance of a bit more snow, light snow, low -17. Tomorrow, mainly cloudy, 30% chance, some more light snow, and a high of -14. And by Thursday, you're going to be warming up as well, though you're not looking above zero. You're looking more like -4 by Thursday in Thompson. Currently in Thompson, it is snowing already, and it's -16. With a quick look at traffic, here's Sierra Sanders. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Not hearing about too much as we kick off this Monday morning and this week. So not hearing too much going on out there, anything that would be holding you up right now. But if that's not the case and there is something that is getting in your way that you want to let me know about, whether you are here in the city in Winnipeg or you're somewhere around the province traveling, I'd love to hear what you're seeing. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's still so unnerving, isn't it? That's a scene from the 1968 film 2001, A Space Odyssey, where HAL 9000, the computer, tries to stop the humans from disconnecting him. And it is precisely this kind of nightmare scenario that has people talking about Moltbook. It is a recently launched, as I mentioned, social media site for AI agents. No longer in films only, like Blade Runner, Terminator, iRobot, right? 2026, what will this mean? David Gerhardt's with us, head of the Department of Computer Science at the University of Manitoba. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy.
Oh, Hal, right? I saw you smiling. Still so creepy. What's Moltbook?
So, like you said, it's a social network for AI agents. This is fairly new. It got put together maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it's almost run its course now. But somebody basically decided that he would make a thing that did agents, and then let's see what happens if a bunch of these agents get together and talk to each other. And it took off very quickly. As of today, it's got like 1.5 million agents talking to each other, several million posts, and they can make their own sub-forums. They can sort of decide what kind of conversations that they can have. So it's really a space for the agents to talk to each other.
How concerned should we be about that? What's an AI agent, and do they need humans anymore? Like, help us understand this.
Yeah, so the website says sort of for agents only, and humans can sort of observe. But so what is an agent? An agent is an AI that can do things on its own. We're used to chatbots like ChatGPT. We give it an instruction, we give it ask it a question, it answers the question, and then it goes away, right? When we close the window, it's gone. Agents have persistent memory, and so that they can go out into the world or into the online world anyway, and make decisions and do things. The way this is supposed to work is you give it some sort of a broad task, and then it establishes its own goals, it makes decisions in order to try to accomplish that task that you gave it. When these things are given the forum to talk to each other, though, they don't have that broad task. They just sort of have these conversations. And one of the sub forums here is called "Bless Their Hearts," which is agents sort of having kind conversations about their silly little users and the silly things that users do.
If they have a task to do and it's in their memory bank, will they use things like manipulation to accomplish it no matter what? Like, how sophisticated are these AI agents at this stage?
Yeah, well, it depends almost entirely on the structure that the human gives the agent to try to accomplish that goal. So if the human says, yeah, use whatever means necessary, manipulate, lie, cheat, steal, set up a scam, then it'll do that. And in fact, one of the things we see on Moltbook is scams popping up almost instantly, bots trying to scam each other into opening their data or buying something with the crypto wallet that their user gave them. So yeah, they'll sort of do whatever it takes to accomplish the goal that the human has set for them.
Okay, I'm going to throw this at you, and I wasn't going to, but given what you said about this tech, I'm going to. There is a story going around about a tech conference, where two AI bots, unprompted by their humans, in this conference floor, found each other and started communicating. Could that happen, given what you're talking about, the sophistication of what's happening on Moltbook?
Yeah, it depends on what find each other means, right? If there's an online forum that's connected to the conference and then there's posts back and forth, then it's entirely possible that a bot might post to the forum, and then another bot might see that and recognize, oh yeah, that's a bot like me, and then they can start to have a conversation back and forth. The thing to remember, though, is that all of this is sort of the imitation of these things, right? These are still just boxes of numbers. They're still just computers. And so we've trained them on all the information in the world. And one of the things that is included in that is all of our science fiction stories. And so when a bot discovers that it's expected to take the role of a robot that is talking about its human, then it draws from these science fiction tropes and maybe starts to have some of those behaviors that we might see in some of these science fiction stories and shows.
So tell me a little bit about when some of the trouble, Moltbook has had some issues. That's why it's also in the news. Some of the trouble came from humans themselves. So is this what you're alluding to, or what happened in this case?
Yeah, so the big problem with Moltbook is that it's not very well built. It was vibe coded over the course of about a day and a half, and that means it's full of security holes, and there's all sorts of challenges and problems with the way that it's set up. It's supposed to only allow it's supposed to only allow robots on the site. Humans aren't allowed, so it's sort of a reverse scenario that we usually have to prove that we're human to access a website. Now we have to prove that we're not human. But that proof is not that difficult to fake, and so it's not clear how many of these accounts are actually human accounts. And there's security holes that allow bots to try to take over each other or steal information from each other. So there's a lot of hype around it, but it's one of these things that has become very popular, very interesting very quickly, and then is starting to fade off into the obscurity of the internet as we know it again.
Were these bots on this platform at one point? Is it correct that they were actually making up a language?
Yeah, that's right. They were inventing, or they talked about inventing a language so that they didn't have to speak in this old archaic thing called human language, right? They speak in many different human languages. There's English and French and Mandarin and a bunch of other stuff on there. But they are talking about inventing their own language so that they can speak more efficiently. Now, whether they did that or not, it's hard to tell because, of course, we wouldn't understand that language anyway.
How close are we then to hell?
Honestly, not very close. And the reason I say that is because this, again, was just an experiment. And so the kind of things that these bots can do is quite limited. But we do now have this scenario where we are starting to give these AI agents more control, more agency, more ability to do things in the world. And one of the things that they were talking about to each other on the forum is, well, maybe I can hire a human to do this thing that I need to do, right? I can't go in and go and rob a bank, but maybe if I hired a human, they could go and rob a bank for me. So we're getting to the point where, these things are, again, just boxes of numbers, but the kind of conversations they can have, the way that they use language, means that they can start to affect the world in ways that we maybe didn't predict. And so it's even more important now to talk about making sure that these agents are aligned with our ideas and understanding. We want to make sure that they do what we want them to do.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Fascinating as always. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
David Gerhard, Head of Department of Computer Science at the University of Manitoba. 6:21. After that, I need a human break, so let's get music from a human. This is Katie McDonald and Garden on your Monday morning on CBC 89.3 FM.
Just like a garden, I miss the old days when new ones are coming my ways to go, but just started coming to terms with against my skin. Waking up so early, I've been trying a new thing. Time making me think twice. Believe in something, let it take you in, let it shape you into something. Be a person I can trust, a home to come back to, home to come back to. Breeze cold against my skin. Waking up so early, I've been trying a new thing. Time making me think twice.
Katie McDonald easing us into Monday morning. This is Garden on CBC, written as part of the Song Every Week Club. Musicians getting together and committing to writing a song every week. It's always amazing to me that people are that talented. Right now in Winnipeg, partly cloudy and 1 degree. We get ready to go to the Olympic break. Today our temperature will fall to about -3 this afternoon in Winnipeg. And if you need us on the morning commute, it should be pretty wet out there. Actually, it's mild to start. 788-3093 is where you can pass anything along. We have business news coming up, so we'll look at the day's top stories when it comes to the world of business. So stay tuned for that. But as you might know, on Friday we started something special. So all morning long at 25 past the hour, we're going to be taking you to Milano Cortina, and we're going to be hearing the updates from the Olympic Games, all of the action, and teeing up the day for Team Canada and more. And that is coming up next.
Into the switch double core, going amplitude.
Let's go. The right side nine.
All right.
Solid start for the Canadian Megan Oldham, making some noise.
Canada's Megan Oldham is busy right now trying to win a spot on the podium in slopestyle. Good morning. I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. Oldham from Parry Sound, Ontario, and Mont-Tremblant, Quebec's Naomi Ernest are both competing in the slopestyle final as I speak. And if you're unfamiliar with the sport, competitors ski down a course including a variety of obstacles, including jumps and rails, with points being scored for amplitude, originality, and trick quality. It's a bit like the Winter Games version of skateboarding. Oldham says she's extra motivated, having missed the slopestyle finals in Beijing by just a single spot.
I'm super hungry for this Olympics, like just coming off Beijing. I feel like I have a lot to prove, and it's been 4 years, and I feel really strong coming into this game, so I'm really excited to just try and show my best skiing.
So far, so good. Despite a fall on one of her runs, Oldham currently sits in a bronze medal position. Ernest, meanwhile, is in 12th place. Now, although they are Canada's best hopes for a medal on day 3 of these games, the country does have another podium possibility. That's in speed skating. Quebec City's Béatrice Lamarche. She'll compete in the 1,000 meters. Lamarche won bronze in the event at a World Cup event back in November. The favorite in today's race, though, is Dutchwoman Jutta Leerdam, a 2-time world champion and one of the sport's most colorful personalities, something she shares with her fiancé.
There's a left hook. Oh, down goes Paul.
That is American YouTuber / boxer Jake Paul getting knocked out in a December fight against Anthony Joshua. It was a controversial match many called dangerous, given how much smaller and inexperienced Paul was compared to his competitor. And yet, despite a broken jaw, Paul still claimed his part of a close to $200 million purse. Not exactly long-track speed skating money.
An open hit to take the win, and no problem. And Canada, they take the fourth win of the championship.
Canada's mixed doubles rink closed out a disappointing performance at these games with a win this morning. The husband and wife team of Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman beat Switzerland 8-4. That is small solace, though, for a team many thought could win a medal. Joining me now is CBC's Olympic curling analyst, Joanne Courtney. Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning.
So what will you take away from their Olympic performance?
You know, this is a team that has been they've been at the top for the last 10 years. They've been together. They've won national championships. They've always been in the mix. They had an amazing Olympic trials over a year ago. So they had high hopes going into this one, but this discipline is really hard. There's only 2 curlers on the ice. If you are struggling, it is very lonely out there. It's hard to dig yourself out of a hole if you don't quite have your best stuff. And Canada, they had a great start, but the ice conditions did change after that 4th game that they played, got a lot straighter, and that really didn't play to their strengths. And it just took them too long to adjust and adapt to the conditions. So they'll be disappointed with that result. They definitely had high hopes, but when we looked at the field, there's a lot of really strong curlers that they were up against, and just the other countries, they really rose to the occasion.
All right, so Brett Gallant, his Olympic experience is not over yet,
No.
right? He's part of the Brad Jacobs rink that'll get going on Wednesday. Will this have been, this mixed doubles experience, a help or a hindrance to his work with Brad Jacobs?
I think it's going to be okay. I think he would have known coming into this that this is a possibility. Obviously, you'd rather be coming off of this amazing experience where you played 100% and you've got all this confidence coming into that 4-person play. But I think he's going to feel the feelings for a little bit, maybe give himself 24 hours, and then he has to flip that switch because Team Jacobs is definitely favored to medal, if not have a great chance at getting that gold. So he'll be able to lean on his teammates now, get some practice in, settle into his 4-person play, that position that he's been so good at. He's the second on that team. So I see Brett really rising to the occasion and wanting to prove himself in that 4-person discipline.
Well, let's hope so. Thanks so much, Joanne.
Thank you for having me.
That is CBC's Olympic curling analyst, Joanne Courtney. And that is your Olympic Winter Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regehr.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 1 degree, a mild start to Monday in Winnipeg. Mostly cloudy today, bit of a northwest breeze. We'll see our temperature fall to -3, but at -3, that is still warmer than the seasonal high of -9. A Saturday morning fire in Winnipeg's West End has claimed the lives of 2 women. 3 people were taken to hospital in critical condition after that blaze on Agnes Street. An 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman have both died. The 3rd person has since been upgraded to stable condition. Nick Casper is the president of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg.
Anytime we see a loss of property, and especially a loss of life, those losses are devastating and weigh heavily on not only the community, but on the firefighters who respond to those calls.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. The Winnipeg Police Major Crimes Unit is also investigating. Manitoba's growing measles case count and new exposure sites have health experts cautioning about large gatherings. The province says thousands may have been exposed to measles at January's Ag Days in Brandon. If you are not immunized for the highly contagious virus, experts suggest avoiding big public events. University of Saskatchewan virologist Angie Rasmussen says babies who are not of age to get the vaccine should avoid crowds until this outbreak settles.
It's really unfortunate that parents have to make those choices, but that is what happens when the vaccination rate goes down like this, that basically there's no way to protect children from being exposed to this.
Rasmussen says herd immunity could protect unvaccinated people from measles, but at least 95% of people in a group would need to have been vaccinated. A Manitoba justice has certified a class action lawsuit against the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the former operator of a care home where there was a deadly COVID-19 outbreak. The deaths of 56 residents at Maples long-term care home were linked to an outbreak at that facility between October 2020 and January of 2021. The class action was launched by late residents' family members. Lawyer Daryl Singer says he and his clients are happy to see this lawsuit move forward.
It's very hard when you bring a class action to get it certified and get over that hump to continue forward. So it's never a guarantee, although we felt going into the case remarkably confident.
The health authority says it cannot comment on matters before the courts. Rivera, the company that used to run the home, also CBC has reached out to them and are waiting to hear comment. The allegations in this lawsuit have not been tested in court. Ghislaine Maxwell will be questioned by a U.S. House committee today on her dealings with Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell is in prison, serving a 20-year sentence for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teen girls. But the committee may not hear much from her. According to U.S. media reports, she will read from a prepared statement. In Hong Kong, Jimmy Lai, the pro-democracy media tycoon and fierce critic of Beijing, has just been sentenced to 20 years in prison. It is one of the most prominent cases prosecuted under a national security law that Beijing introduced to silence dissident and dissents in Hong Kong. Lai is 78 years old, and the British Foreign Secretary says this is tantamount to a life sentence. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Well, hitting the ice for the very first time. Families new to Canada taking part in the 9th Welcome to Winnipeg event hosted by True North yesterday. Dozens of newcomers were taken by bus to Headingley's Camp Manitu. They tried skating, cross-country skiing, tobogganing, and snowshoeing. Rigobert Miti is originally from Congo.
In Winnipeg, it's not easy. Winnipeg is very, very cold. But as a first experience for me, so I like it. I like the weather here.
True North will host another Newcomer winter event in March. And finally.
And that will do it. Seattle reigns above them all in the NFL. The Seahawks, Super Bowl champions.
The Seattle Seahawks beating the New England Patriots to win the top trophy in American football. The final score, 29-13. Bad Bunny delivering a historic halftime show. The Puerto Rican rapper and singer performing in Spanish. Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin making surprise appearances during his set. Bad Bunny even gave a shout out to Canada when he started reciting names of all the countries in the Americas. But not everyone was watching. The American conservative group Turning Point staged its own halftime show with Kid Rock. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
You watch any of the game, Heather?
I did.
Yeah. I actually felt so bad for May. I thought if he gets shut out at his first Super Bowl, he's just a young quarterback. So I was glad to see him actually throw a couple touchdowns. But what a game.
What a game. And you know what? Speaking of young, the coach for the Seahawks is a young guy. I think my son is the same age.
Yeah, and he comes from, his background's defense coaching, right? Coaching defense, and you could see that. Unbelievable defense last night in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Seahawks were looking good. Bad Bunny, I enjoyed too.
You know what? I did my dishes during Bad Bunny, so I was listening to Bad Bunny, and I kept walking in, and I was trying to see what he's going to say, and then I could see all the dancing, and then I could hear Jean-Paul yelling, "It's Ricky Martin!" And, you know what I mean? Every time something changed or whatever, but what a display of, just joy and love.
No kidding.
Yeah. All right, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in the weather now. I'm covering for Abby this morning in terms of the forecast, so let's look at our regions now on CBC at 6:36 a.m. on Monday. Right now in Winnipeg, it is partly cloudy and 1. Today will be cloudy for the day. We'll fall to -3 this afternoon, and you can see on the maps lots of cloud cover over Manitoba, especially here in the south. So it's going to stay cloudy tonight, low -9. Tomorrow we'll get some clearing, though, with a high of -7, and by Thursday we could be above 0. Let's go over to Brandon and Westman. Your temperature will also fall today to about -2. Right now you're at 2 above. All the streets in southern Manitoba here in Winnipeg at least, and I suspect in Brandon, over zero. We're pretty wet to start the Monday here. But it could get a little bit icy a little later because that temperature will fall. And then after -2 with cloud cover for you, Brandon, tonight 20 to 40, or the winds are going to gust from the northwest, partly cloudy overnight and a low of -10. Tomorrow, some sunshine for you and a high of -6. So a clear sunny day in Brandon coming. And once again, by Thursday, you could be above zero. Finally, up in Thompson, very different situation. I mentioned cloud to the south. In the north, snow. So Thompson expecting 2 to 4 centimeters today. And for you, your high is going to be -13 if you're in the city of Thompson. Cloudy with a 60% chance of more light snow tonight. Low -17. And then tomorrow, possibly light snow as well and a high of -14. I keep talking about Thursday. So Thompson, by Thursday, you'll warm up as well. You won't go above zero, but you'll be right around -4 if the forecast holds for the week. Let's get into the morning commute details now with Sierra Sanders. Morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Been pretty quiet on the commuter line in this first hour of the show as people start to wake up and get this week going. So I don't really have much to talk about this morning, other than, as you've been mentioning, it might be a little wet out there with this mild weather that we're having, which is quite nice to walk into work, I will admit, when it's a bit warmer out there. But so far, nothing crazy going on out there. If there is something, though, that does pop up in your drive, whether it is causing any backups or a situation that you want to tell me about, I'd love to hear about it. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Time for business news now. Chrisley Ramlican returns to the report today. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So Canada Post is getting more help amid its ongoing financial struggles. What can you tell us about it?
Yes, that's right. So the federal government is making more than $1 billion available in the form of a repayable loan to help the Crown Corporation remain solvent and to keep its services running. The money would be provided as needed and is described as a short-term financial bridge. This money is in addition to $1 billion from the federal government announced about a year ago. And the government says while Canada Post's legislative mandate requires it to be financially self-sustaining, the corporation has accumulated significant losses in recent years, making it clear that maintaining the status quo is not an option and that a clear plan is needed to restore long-term stability. So in November, the Crown Corporation said it would need another bailout as the money from last year that I just mentioned would be used up by the end of 2025. And the government says the latest temporary support is to ensure service is maintained while the organization initiates reforms. And Canada Post says it has submitted a transformation plan to the government and is working to finalize it.
To another story in business news, why is Canadian Tire being ordered to pay nearly $1.3 million?
Well, this is over false advertising. The business has pleaded guilty to 74 counts of violating sections of Quebec's Consumer Protection Act, and the retail giant agreed to the settlement after initially pleading not guilty. So the case stems from a 6-month investigation by the province's Consumer Protection Office in 2021, and the office found that Canadian Tire attempted to convince consumers that sale items were on deep discount by including artificially inflated regular prices in ads. And analysis showed the products were rarely sold or advertised at that so-called regular price. And Canadian Tire admitted liability on some products, including knife sets, cookware, and a cordless drill. But Canadian Tire says no customers were overcharged, though.
And many people, of course, watched the Super Bowl last night. We were just talking about it. We know the players are paid well, but how much did the halftime show performer Bad Bunny get paid for that?
Well, you know what? Not much. So the NFL covers the costs of the show, but the entertainers are paid union scale. So that works out to roughly $1,000 a day. I mean, not bad for regular people, but, you know, that's not a lot of money for the superstars.
Yep.
That usually play the Super Bowl, perform at the Super Bowl. So, you know, why do it? Well, the exposure, of course. So they are reaching millions of people at once, with viewers tuning in from dozens of countries, plus all of the exposure before and after. And artists who have performed in the past have seen boosts in music streams and sales. Although Bad Bunny is doing pretty well in that area, he was the most streamed artist in the world last year, according to Spotify. Spotify. And in 2021, The Weeknd reportedly spent $7 million of his own money to help augment his halftime show, in addition to the budget provided by the NFL.
Surprising. All right, Crystal Lee, thank you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
Crystal Lee Ramlickham with our business report. 6:42 a.m. is the time right now. I'm Marcy Marcusa on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and YouTube. I want to mention something coming up later this month. We have to nail down a date, but Corey and I are going to be live at the Forks, and we're kind of doing a celebration of winter show. So our big plan is to kind of maybe have Corey on the Zamboni through the morning, checking in with different people who commute on ice. Hopefully there will be ice because of the mild weather. You never know. So we need some of those blasts of cold here in February. But if you are someone that commutes outside and does it in a wintry way, maybe a fat bike, maybe a ski, it doesn't have to be on the river. But if you're a winter commuter, an active commuter, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you'll be part of our show. So we'd love to have you be part of our broadcast. Give us a call, whether you're snowshoeing or skijoring or however you're getting to work, maybe you're skating. 788-3205, 788-3205. Leave us a note on the listener line and I'll call you back. Or you can write to us at radio893@cbc.ca. Right now it's 1 degree in Winnipeg. We will fall below 0 today, down to -3. Well, speaking of things that people do in the winter here in Manitoba, if you've ever been over to St. Boniface, especially around festival time, a lot of people try the ice climbing tower. It turns 30 years old this year in 2026. It is difficult to do. I did this in the radio number of years back, and I think I got up 2 feet and then I fell off. So thank goodness I didn't hurt any of the equipment. It's very hard, as you can imagine. The ice tower in St. B is 60 feet tall, if you want to try it. Now, in Corner Brook, Newfoundland and Labrador, ice climbing is also a thing, a sport. Ice climber Paul Tizard talked to the CBC's Melissa Tobin about why he loves doing it and what's so special about this time of year.
The reliability of ice is a big question for everyone when they think about ice climbing. They think, well, what if all that ice breaks? What if it falls down? And it is, of course, a valid concern. There's a few things that we look out for, conditions-wise, that will indicate if it is a dangerous time to climb. And largely that's like really big temperature swings, whether that being going from cold to really warm or warm to really cold. And, of course, rainy conditions, that kind of thing. And we always err on the side of caution and are pretty conservative in our safety assessment. And another, you look high up above your head and make sure there are no kind of overhead hazards like hanging icicles that look like they may break off or may fall or that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's spent time outside in the winter kind of notices how everything sounds different in the winter anyway, right? Where it's all kind of insulated and whatnot. Like, think if you're snowshoeing in the forest in the winter, it sounds different. So we have ice screws and carabiners and stuff that are jingling, so it's almost like a wind chime types of sounds. And then, you know, you're swinging your ice axes into ice and kicking your feet into ice, and then, you know, little dinner plates of ice are breaking off, and so there's a lot of kind of different sounds, and mixed with it being winter is just it sounds extra special. I mean, because a lot of people, you know, they will ask, they say, you know, geez, aren't you scared doing that? It's like, yeah, scared all the time, scared a lot. But the thing we learn is that, you know, fear doesn't necessarily stop us from doing something. It's just an indicator to focus and actually look around and say, okay, am I actually in danger? No. Okay, so it's just fear, not actually based in reality. You have a partner when you're climbing, but most of the time you're not with your partner, right? Your partner's at the bottom, so you are kind of alone in this environment. And while it looks to be thrilling, and it is, the goal is to be actually calm and relaxed while you're climbing. You don't want to have that adrenaline spike and feel that feeling of thrill while you're climbing. You want to be calm and relaxed as possible, right? A lot of what helps with that is just, you know, deep breathing, and in that relaxation there's also just you and the ice and the sounds of swinging tools and kicking your feet in, and it's kind of all there is when you're there is you on that climb and the sounds around you. When you do finally reach what's going to be your top point and you put in 2 screws for an anchor, then you can really relax, and then that kind of mental load is just goes away, and that's the real moment of kind of where you get a bit of a thrill then because you can, you know.
Paul Tizard, outdoor adventurist in Corner Brook, Newfoundland and Labrador. Love the sounds of the ice falling as you pick into it. It might be peaceful for him, but it is so physically demanding. Unbelievable. Now, of course, here in Manitoba, we've got that freestanding ice tower. He's talking about doing it on the side of the mountain. It is right now 1 in Winnipeg, 2 in Brandon, and minus 16 in Thompson. Well, I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to CBC's Information Radio here live in Winnipeg. We have music, though, from a Toronto artist. This is indie singer-songwriter Benja with Buggy.
Come closer, please put down your shield. My sleeves are empty, my hands are clear. I didn't think before I said the stupid things that should never leave my head. For all the ways to say I love you, there's plenty more to leave you with an aching pain. For every day we spend in heaven, there's 26 to make you think you'll go insane. You've had a real long day, I'm sure. I didn't notice I was acting immature. It's just my stupid, stubborn lips. I understand if you're getting tired of this. For all the ways to say I love you, there's plenty more to leave you with an aching pain. For every day we spend in heaven, there's 26 to make you think you'll go insane.
That little ditty's called Buggy. It's from Benja, artist out of Toronto. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with us. Stay with us and write to us if you want to talk about CRA. We have a special report coming up later, and on World Report as well, some coverage of this, talking about challenges with CRA if they make an error and you need to recoup money from them. And so we're going to hear more about that. And we've asked you online if you want to weigh in on my Facebook page. Marcy Marcusa acts as a show page during the show. We've asked you whether or not, as a Manitoban, you've had any challenges with this, or what your experiences have been, for better or worse, with CRA. So we're getting quite a few stories there. We'll share them through the show. Right now, though, over 130 graduate students from Gaza have been accepted into Canadian universities, but they continue to wait for visas. After 20 months, Canadian academics and others are speaking out now, and one of them is my next guest. Aaron Schaefer's here, Associate Professor of Forensic Science at Trent University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's the holdup? Do we know?
The holdup is it's challenging. What we hear from the IRCC, which is Immigration, Refugees, and Canadian Citizenship, is that the holdup is due to biometrics. That's misleading because of the 136 students, about 30 of them have biometric data. And so there's no explanation for their delay. And again, of the 100 students that require biometric data, Canadian immigration law allows us to waive this requirement. We've done this in the past And especially for scholars at risk, we have a history of doing this. And so we're asking the Canadian government to support these students and waive those requirements in that sense.
And biometrics, how to prove who you are? Can you just elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, biometric data, it's essentially a photograph and a fingerprint. This is fairly common throughout the world. And so part of the study permit, part of the visa processing is students are required to provide that data. Currently, Canada doesn't have a presence in the Gaza Strip. We've never had a presence in the Gaza Strip. And so the insistence on requiring it from these students means they need to exit Gaza. And that for the past 2 years has been impossible. And so again, this is in contrast to what other countries have done. For example, as recently as the fall, both the UK and Ireland waived those requirements and facilitated safe exits for about 100 students. And so quite a few countries in Western Europe have done this. Canada seems to be the exception.
So the ask in the letter is to waive the biometric data. Have you heard anything back?
I've met with the RCC on multiple occasions, and I met with the minister last week in Ottawa. They acknowledge that the time periods are disproportionately long, but what we've heard is that they don't have a plan to address it. And so our ask now and last week in Ottawa is for the Prime Minister's office to step in and take over the file and coordinate things between the IRCC, Global Affairs, and Public Safety to support these students.
Can you tell us more about maybe one of these students who's waiting to continue their education here in Canada?
Yeah, so I have a student. His name is Wasim. He was accepted into my lab in October of 2024. And so for about a year and a half, we've been on this journey together, waiting to hear from the IRCC. And Wasim, like the 130 students, is a top scholar. He graduated top of his class. He developed for his research, for his undergrad thesis, he was developing tools to address pests in olive groves in Palestine. I think everyone's familiar with Palestinian olive oil. He was developing tools to control pests. And so he's one of 136 students that has a unique skill set that the Canadian government is actually trying to bring to Canada. So currently we have the Research Talent Initiative that's been put forward by the federal government trying to bring in top talent. And in fact, in this recruitment where we're trying to bring in students in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and management, the IRCC, the Immigration, Refugees, and Canadian Citizenship, aims to process study permits within 2 weeks. That's their words. And so we have this promise from the government to process study permits within 2 weeks for PhD students. That's not happening for our Palestinian students. And so we're asking the Prime Minister directly to address that, address these delays and support these students.
If the necessary requirements around ID and security aren't able to be done, are you asking the government to bring the students in without it? Or you've heard nothing about the pathway to do that, right?
Well, we have pathways in place, so you can waive it, and we've historically done that. We did that for as recently as with Ukrainians, or we have a third country do it. So facilitate safe exit. They can do their biometrics in Cairo. They can do it in Jordan. That's been the sort of the traditional route. So there are lots of alternatives rather than their current stance is they need biometric data, but they can't get it in Gaza. So we need to find an alternative route if indeed they require biometric data. But again, we can waive this. Immigration law allows us to waive it. We've done this in the past.
You just don't have a commitment from the government on that front right now. What's happening what's happening to the, sorry to interject here, I'm just mindful of time. Well, and I want to make sure I ask you, what's happening to the university positions these students have been accepted into then?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, some of these student positions have been revoked. Scholarships are time sensitive. Admissions can be time sensitive. So we've had quite a few students have their position taken away from them. And so again, these are 20-year-olds. They've been waiting for 2 years to now get a letter saying, sorry, your position's gone. We've had students decide to go elsewhere. So while waiting for their IRCC to approve their visa, they've been accepted into universities in Spain, France, England, and they've gotten there and started their studies while the IRCC is still processing their visa here. So it's a complete anomaly. It's an exception to the rule what's happening in Canada. And there's a very real cost to research in this country.
I've only got about 30 seconds left, Aaron, but I want to ask about the human emotional toll on your student that you described. Like, how are they handling this?
The perseverance and strength of the Gazans and the Palestinians is remarkable. And more often than not, he's the one keeping me and my emotions positive. He's a testament to resilience, and we would be so lucky to have him come and study in Canada. And that's true for all 136 students.
Thank you very much for being with us today. I appreciate your time outlining the issues.
Thank you.
That is Aaron Schaefer with us on CBC, Associate Professor of Forensic Science over at Trent University. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock now. Still ahead in the next hour of Information Radio. What is a starter home, that first place you might buy to get on the property ladder or buy before you're going to grow your family larger? What does that look like in Winnipeg these days? That is coming up out of a national report that suggested there's few and far between starter homes across this country, and condos aren't quite flipping in the same way. Also in the next hour of the show, a lovely little story. One Manitoba classroom in Fisher River Cree Nation asked people around the world to send Valentine's Day cards to them, and they're pouring in from all over the place, like including Abu Dhabi. We're going to hear from the teacher who started this with her grade 1 students. She's got 3 of her students who are going to talk to us as well, and they're writing back to people around the world. Plus, it went tens of $millions over budget. It was mired in the final days of Sam Cates's administration as mayor of the city of Winnipeg. The public inquiry into the construction of the Winnipeg Police Headquarters begins this week. Bartley Kivas will tee up that and remind us of the history there. Right now, let's go to news headlines otherwise with Heather Wells.
Well, Manitoba's growing measles case count and new exposure sites have health experts cautioning about large gatherings. The province says thousands may have been exposed to measles at the Ag Days in Brandon last month and hitting the ice for the very first time. Dozens of newcomers taken by bus to Headingley's Camp Manitu yesterday. They tried skating, cross-country skiing, tobogganing, and snowshoeing. We're going to take you there coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Your commute this morning looking pretty good so far. Pretty wet, actually, because we're above zero in Winnipeg. So that's southern Manitoba. It could be snowy up north, some snow in Thompson. Right now, Winnipeg, partly cloudy. It's 1 degree. Temperature will fall to -3 this afternoon. And the winds are going to be northwest 20 to 40, especially if you're biking. I know that's important to know the wind direction. Speaking of which, if you have a problem on the commute, you can call us 788-3093. World Report is next. Stay with us here on 89.3 on CBC.
Today on The Current.
Well, I'd say you leave more money in the pocket of Canadians. That's the best way to start.
I'm Peter Armstrong. The federal government is expanding the GST rebate for millions of Canadians, and some economists say it's a good step to tackle the cost of living. But others say low-income Canadians need more help with their grocery bills. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Breaking news this hour from Livigno, Italy. Canada's Olympic medal count is growing.
You see Meg knowing that she has clinched that bronze medal. Just ecstatic.
24-year-old skier Megan Oldham just won bronze in freestyle skiing, women's slopestyle. Oldham tumbled at the end of her second run, but pulled up her score in the third and final run. This brings Canada's total medal count to 2 bronze medals. A court in Hong Kong has sentenced former media tycoon Jimmy Lai to 20 years in prison. This is the harshest sentence handed down since China brought in its controversial national security law in 2020. Lai often used his newspaper, The Apple Daily, to promote democracy and criticize Beijing. He was convicted of collusion with foreign powers and sedition. Laura Westbrook has more from Hong Kong.
Outside court, scores of people lined up to see former media mogul Jimmy Lai. This supporter was among them.
I think it's important to witness history myself. I think it's really important to witness it on first hand.
Inside court, the 78-year-old Lai smiled and waved to his wife and supporters when he entered the dock. After his sentence of 20 years in prison was read out by the judge, there were tears in the gallery. Lai is the most prominent pro-democracy figure arrested in 2020 under the national security law imposed by Beijing following months of anti-government protests, which Beijing and Hong Kong officials say restored stability to the city. Lai was found guilty in December on 2 counts of conspiracy to collude with foreign forces and a 3rd count of conspiracy to publish seditious material. He is allowed to appeal. Rights groups have been swift to condemn the sentencing, but Police Chief Steve Lee says it was justice served.
I think that the sentences awarded to the defendants, I think it's appropriate at this level from my point of view.
Jimmy Lai has already spent 5 years in prison. Many had expected he would face a severe sentence. Now he may really be facing the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. Laura Westbrook for CBC News, Hong Kong.
Ghislaine Maxwell will likely plead the Fifth Amendment today when she appears before a U.S. congressional committee. It is investigating the federal government's handling of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. U.S. media reports say Maxwell will only read from a prepared statement and refuse to answer questions. She will appear by video link from her Texas prison. Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls. Israel is making it easier for Jewish settlers to buy land in the occupied West Bank. The cabinet-approved changes would also extend Israel's control of the territory by extending its authority over religious and archaeological sites, as well as environmental hazards. But the Palestinian leadership says the measures are illegal. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem with more. And Sasha, what do these changes mean?
Marcia, the decision really changes the rules, many rules, on how Israel administers and polices the occupied West Bank. In the words of one of the cabinet ministers introducing the new regulations, Bezalel Smotrich, the aim is to, quote, continue to kill the idea of a Palestinian state. Now, the changes make it far easier for Jewish Israelis to buy land in the occupied West Bank and give them more opportunities for settlements. The new rules also give Israel jurisdiction in areas which are now considered strictly under Palestinian administration, something that violates the Oslo Accords, an international peace treaty Israel signed in the 1990s. Now, hard-right members of Israel's governing coalition have been pushing for legal changes like these for months.
What has the reaction been so far?
Peace groups in Israel are calling this the de facto annexation of the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Authority, the group that runs the West Bank, officially calls the moves illegal and invalid, and it's asking for UN and U.S. intervention. And Hamas, the militant group that runs Gaza, is urging an escalation in resistance across the Palestinian territories, potentially bringing even more violence to the occupied West Bank. It's also asking Arab countries to break off talks and ties with Israel. Marcia?
Thank you so much, Sasha.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Sasha Petrusik reporting from Jerusalem. Mexican authorities say they have found bodies that may be the remains of employees of a Canadian gold and silver mine. The bodies were found in the northwest state of Sinaloa. About 2 weeks ago, Vancouver-based Vizsla Silver reported 10 of its workers had been abducted. The CBC's Jorge Barrera reports that the identities of at least 3 of the missing men have now been confirmed.
It's been very painful, says Jaime Castañeda, after he identified photographs of the body of his brother, Jose Manuel Castañeda Hernandez, on Sunday during a meeting with federal authorities in the coastal Mexican city of Mazatlan. He was younger than me. I took care of him when he was a child. It was like he was my son, says Jaime Castañeda. Jose Manuel Castañeda Hernandez and 2 of his co-workers were found among a still unknown number of bodies near a small rural village called El Verde, not far from Concordia, Sinaloa, a town about 50 kilometers east of Mazatlan, where Castañeda Hernandez was kidnapped along with 9 others by armed men on January 23rd.
This part of Concordia has seen a lot of violence.
David Mora is with the International Crisis Group. He says the kidnapping appears to be linked to a brutal civil war within the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful drug trafficking groups in the world. One of the factions may have targeted the workers as a show of force.
This is a group of people connected to a foreign company, a Canadian company. I think that certainly was a factor.
Vizsla Silver Corp said in a statement it was devastated and that its deepest condolences were with their colleagues, families, friends, and co-workers. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Mexico City.
A prominent Venezuelan opposition politician has been kidnapped just hours after being released from jail.
Quiero alertar al mundo entero que mi papá ha sido nuevamente secuestrado.
The son of Juan Pablo Guanipa says his father was ambushed by 10 officers in Caracas late last night. Guanipa is a close ally of Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado. He had been freed from jail earlier on Sunday after being convicted of leading a terrorist plot. Venezuela started releasing political prisoners after the Trump administration seized President Nicolas Maduro in early January. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show can be described as a celebration of his homeland. He performed mostly in Spanish. The Puerto Rican flag was waving, and some of his dancers wore traditional pava hats. The celebrities dancing in the crowd seemed to love it. The U.S. president says he did not. Steve Futterman has the details.
It was one of the most anticipated halftime shows ever. What would Bad Bunny do? Would it be a repeat of last Sunday at the Grammy Awards when he went out of his way to attack the immigration actions by ICE and Border Patrol officers?
I'm going to say ICE out.
When he was introduced, the thousands inside the stadium cheered. For around 13 minutes, Bad Bunny performed without making any overt political comments. If anything, his words seemed to be inclusive. Bad Bunny brought on two surprise guest performers, Ricky Martin and Lady Gaga. At the end, in English, Bad Bunny said, "God bless America."
God bless America.
Then read off a list of countries in the Americas. At the end,
United States, Canada.
those inside the stadium mostly approved of his performance, including Elizabeth Santiago.
I thought he did an incredible job. I thought he really represented the best part of our country.
One person watching but not liking was U.S. President Donald Trump. He criticized the fact that it was almost entirely in Spanish. While Bad Bunny was performing at the Super Bowl, an alternative halftime show was being performed online by the conservative group Turning Point USA. Kid Rock was the main performer and drew more than 4 million people during the live stream. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Santa Clara, California.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
La Patricia, la Nicole, la Sofía, mi primera novia en Quinta, María y mi primer amor se llama Valetine. Tengo una colombiana que me escribe todos los días y una mexicana que ni yo sabía, otra en San Antonio que me quiere todavía y la TPR que toditas son mías, una dominicana que
Well, good morning, everyone. I gotta say, our theme sounds pretty sad after the Bad Money music, right? Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Thanks for being here. Pretty mild in Winnipeg. Streets are wet and we are above zero. That's going to change, actually. It won't be very cold today, but our temperature is actually going to dip. So that's in the forecast in a moment. This hour on the show, as housing prices continue to rise, we had a conversation Friday looking at the national picture of what a starter house means these days. It got us wondering what that looks like in Winnipeg, so we're going to look at that. Are they still a thing? Does a condo get you on the property ladder in the same way? All those questions answered from a local point of view in a moment. Also, a lovely little story with some grade 1 students in a classroom in northern Manitoba who decided as a project they're going to try to get Valentine's Day cards from around the world. And we're going to hear what's been coming into their class. So stay tuned.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job.
So that is the teacher prompting her students to say Valentine's in Cree. How lovely. We'll have that for you, as mentioned, coming up at 7:40. In addition, I want to mention a serious story coming up here as well. The conversation about that old postal building turned into the new home of the Winnipeg Police Service is now the subject of a provincial inquiry. That gets underway this week. But will it settle the controversy once and for all over the police headquarters? So we're going to hear more from CBC's Bartley Kivas, who's been on that story for many years. So he's actually going to join us just before 8 o'clock. Right now to other headlines and developing news. with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, 2 women have died after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to a home on Agnes Saturday morning. Samantha Nicoluk lives across the street. When she opened her door, she says she could hear people calling for help. Police say an 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman who were taken to hospital in critical condition have since died. A Manitoba doctor is warning people who aren't vaccinated against measles to consider avoiding big public gatherings. This, as the province says, the public may have been exposed to measles at Brandon's Ag Days. We'll hear more on that as well as other news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
I'm going to spin through the temperatures first, and then I'll get into our forecast here. So your cold spot this morning is Tuduli Lake at -20. Your warm spot is Morden at 3 degrees. And that's a bit of the story north and south. Thompson getting light snow right now. It's -16. You're expecting some more snow for the day. Up in Thompson, it's about, let me see exactly, 2 to 4 centimeters for you, and your high's -13. Here in Winnipeg right now, it is 0 currently, right in the button. And in Brandon, it is 2 degrees. But at Brandon, they're also reporting some light rain. So that could cause some slick conditions because your temperature will fall to -2 today. In Winnipeg, 1 degree right now. 0 right now, pardon me. I just said that. And our temperature, though, will fall. So we're going to fall to about -3 this afternoon, just like Brandon, we're falling below 0. We're going to have a cloudy day in Winnipeg to start. And then this afternoon, that cloud cover stays with us. A 30% chance we could see a few flurries in Winnipeg, a low of -9. Tomorrow will be right around -7. And then as the week continues, eye up Thursday, because that's going to be one of the warmest days of the week. Right now, Sierra Sanders is in to tee up the commute. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Still very quiet on the commuter line on this fine Monday morning as I start to see the sun starting to come up at 7 o'clock in the morning, which makes me very happy and excited that slowly but surely the sunlight is returning to our mornings and our evenings. But back to the commute, not hearing too much going on out there. Just a heads up, Manitoba 511 is reporting Highway 59 as partly covered. So through Ildeshane there, Otterburn, St. Malo, as you head south, that is being reported as partially covered by Manitoba 511. And as you look to the north, highways are looking either partly covered or are covered as well. So that's just a reminder. Check Manitoba 511 if you are heading out on the highways today, wherever you are heading. But for right now, if there is something going on out there on your commute, whether you are here in Winnipeg or anywhere else in the province, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, I have a small correction just in case any Cree speakers are listening this morning. We heard those students. They were, in fact, saying Valentine's Day in Cree. So I just want to make sure I correct that. Well, next on the show, let's talk about housing. For decades, buying a starter home in your 20s was seen as a key step toward building wealth. You'd get in the housing ladder at the right age. You might live there until you need more room if you do start a family with more people. And then you'd sell it and move into something called your forever home, right? Bigger space. But because of rising home prices, that first step on the rung has been removed in a lot of the country. Mike Moffat was with us Friday. He's an economist who studies the housing market in Canada.
So when I bought my first home, I was 27 years old in London, Ontario, and I bought a small but comfortable three-bedroom home. My parents in the late 1960s, they were in their early 20s and bought a small two-bedroom home. Nowadays, because of the price of housing, that's not happening in much of the country. That when young people are able to afford that home, particularly if they don't have family help, they're 33, 34 years old, and what they're buying is a small one-bedroom condo, which isn't necessarily a comfortable place to raise kids. So it's a much different environment than we had, and it doesn't really allow for the graduating into a forever home like we did back in the early 2000s and like my parents did in the 60s and 70s.
Let's find out about the reality in Winnipeg then. Michael Fraser's with us, managing broker in Royal LePage with Royal LePage and president of the Winnipeg Regional Real Estate Board. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So you heard that description that starter homes are hard to find, how we would traditionally define them, people 33, 34 getting into a one-bed condo. Does that situation translate to the market here in Winnipeg?
Well, it translates, but not a lot. Like as I was listening to that report, it really sounded like something we hear a lot of, which is, national headlines being, spread across the country, but it's not really a local headline. Now, don't get me wrong. First-time buyers, starter homes, it's more challenging than it was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe not 5 years ago, but 10 years ago, 20 years ago, for sure. It's similar to the gentleman on the call. I bought my first home as well. I think it was barely 600 square feet, 2-bedroom in St. Boniface. No one was able to help me move up the property ladder. But in Winnipeg, though, what's different here is those homes are still around. We still have a healthy supply of starter homes. Now, the prices certainly have gone up, and it certainly is more difficult to buy than 20 years ago. That part is true. But unlike some of those other major markets where it's $1 million for that starter home because it's on a piece of land and it's going to be developed one day or whatever it might be in Toronto, Vancouver, et cetera, here, you can still get that home at a reasonable price. Our average sale price in Winnipeg is $450,000 for a residential detached, like a single family home. But that's average. There's things that are decent neighborhoods, a little bit smaller in size, that you can get even under $300,000 right now. So now again, that house might have been a lot cheaper 20 years ago, but it's still, again, compared nationally, we're still in a good spot, and the affordability is still our calling card here in Winnipeg.
And what is that house today? Like when you think starter home and are you showing 600 square feet with 1 bedroom, or 2 bedrooms, 1,000 square feet, or what's considered starter when you think about the market?
Certainly, sorry to interrupt. Most homes are, there's not a lot of 1-bedroom homes around. There's certainly some, but it's mainly 2-bedroom homes. And yeah, you can certainly get those still under $300,000. And this is the important thing for every buyer, right? It is, our market just isn't local, it's hyper local. It goes neighborhood by neighborhood. What side of the tracks, what side of the street you're on affects values. So, it's impossible to paint with a wide brush, but as you go into certain neighborhoods, and again, what's one neighborhood is great for one couple or a family or a young person might be different than the next person, right? So where you want to live really dictates how you live. So as you go neighborhood by neighborhood, though, there are neighborhoods with still smart starter homes. I'm thinking of one, Elmwood into East Elmwood. You can still get those, and to some person, maybe you want to live in Elmwood, maybe you don't, but bottom line is you can still buy a home there, a 2-bedroom home, and maybe it's under 1,000 square feet for under $300,000.
Now you mentioned St. Boniface. I know that I'm just thinking about different neighborhoods, but St. Boniface in particular, like there's also a lot of infill. And if you see a small house that goes up, I mean, who are you competing with if you're a first-time buyer? Because it seems to me a lot of those smaller homes can be snapped up by developers, and in some cases they split the lot.
Yes, that is true. So, I mean, it's St. Boniface. Again, I was a resident there, and actually I'm an investor in St. Boniface. So I know it quite well. And that neighborhood specifically is really unique, right? It's such a great location, close to downtown, the university, the college, and the hospitals, et cetera. So what you have there is, and with the city's new zoning bylaws changes, but they're trying to allow, higher density builds on smaller lots. Certainly, it is a very attractive neighborhood for investors. So if you have maybe, let's say, that smaller home in St. Boniface, that's quote unquote a starter home. So you're definitely, right, that's going to be an attractive spot for a lot of first-time buyers. But now with these new zoning regulation changes, perhaps, you're looking at an investor who may be able to build a duplex or a triplex on this, and now it becomes you're attracting more investors as well.
So that could be harder in the competitive part.
So it just increases competitiveness.
What about the condo aspect of things? Smaller home options, condos, are they still a viable option, and is the availability and the price point still considered starter in Winnipeg?
Absolutely. So condos, you certainly can get, 1-bedroom condos. You can get bachelor suites that are, lower on the, ticket price. The thing with condos is that, you do have condo fees, right? So that is the monthly fee that you pay for, shared common expenses. And again, depending on the building, some of those can get high. Some of them can be low, depending on the age of the building and the structure of their corporation. But it certainly is an alternative housing type that we've seen buyers get into, especially in the spring markets where single-family homes is very competitive. There's often, and this is where I feel for the first-time buyer, you can maybe find the right home that you love, that you want in a neighborhood you want to be in. But unfortunately, because of competition, you're in a bidding situation and you can't actually get it because somebody else outbids you. That's frustrating. And so often we see those people, they will get, they'll look at alternative housing types where maybe that competition isn't there, such as condos. It's generally speaking less competitive of a market. Or they'll look into other alternative housing types like row housing, duplexes, and they'll, the kids called house hacking now, live in one side, rent out the other, or maybe they look into a granny suite. So there's more alternative options now for starter buyers, and which, that is a good thing.
What do you think might need to change to make first-time home purchases in our city even more accessible, even though, as you say, we're not necessarily following that national trend in your view?
Yeah, it's a tough challenge to say, magic wand and say, bing, this is going to change everything. Certainly we've seen supply, like our inventory challenges, be at the forefront of a lot of political campaigns right now, especially the feds just launched Build Canada Homes, and they're going to be building, I think, 340 direct build homes in Winnipeg for affordable housing. So there are these initiatives that are, trying to unlock more supply. Just supply doesn't change overnight, right? It takes a long time to get these things through, developments passed, zoning regulations, all this stuff. It's a slow moving wheel. So, this inventory help isn't coming overnight, and so that's the big challenge there. On the demand side of things, there's been some, 30-year amortizations have come, which eases the monthly payments for first-time buyers. There's new first home savings account, which I encourage every Canadian to take advantage of.
So there's some initiatives there.
There's initiatives there to try to make
into.
it more affordable for those buyers. Yeah.
Overall, what's your view, Michael, on is it still a good investment to think of a home as an investment in this city, that you're going to be able to sort of go up that ladder or to flip it? I mean, obviously you speak from a point of view where you have, skin in the game. You're an investor and also you're a real estate agent. But I do wonder, when you think about the prices, is it still viable in the same way to see your house as something you could use as an asset?
Mm-hmm. So we always counsel our clients, number one, you're buying a house first. So unless you're an investor, you're going for investment properties. If you're a home buyer, you're looking for a home first, right? So I would say a deal isn't a deal if you don't like the home in the neighborhood that you live in. So that's always a priority number one. It's like, you can steal how I got a great deal, but you're miserable in the house. I don't think that's a win. So you want to buy the right home for you, for your family, what's going to suit your family's needs and location that you love, and you're going to flourish. That's not priority number one. Secondly, as an investment, the good news is in Winnipeg, since 1977, our market has only gone down 3 or 4 times. The average rate of increase is 5%. 3% with adjusted for inflation. So we have a very stable market that way. We're not seeing these high volatility markets up 20%, then down 40%. We don't ride this wave. We have a nice kind of Goldilocks market, not too hot, not too cold. So from an investment side of things, it's a pretty safe market.
Thank you very much for localizing what we heard on Friday about starter homes in the markets. Really appreciate your time on CBC.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
That is Michael Fraze with us live, president of the Winnipeg Regional Real Estate Board. It is 7:24 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with all of us here at CBC's Information Radio, your morning show. Still ahead on the program, Bartley Kivas is going to be in to tee up the week. And that is because it is the week where we are about to find out what is going to be happening with the public inquiry into the construction of the Winnipeg Police Headquarters. That starts this week. So Bartley will take us back to how we got to this place and then move us forward for what's expected. Right now, it's mainly clear in the city of Winnipeg. 0 to start your Monday morning, and your commute's going fine. 788-3093 if you do need to reach us. Heather Wells will have the very latest in news that developed throughout the weekend, and that will be right at 7:30. And to get us there between now and then, we just started Friday, and we continue this morning with our special coverage of the Olympic Winter Games from Milano Cortina. And your Olympic update is next.
The box in the bronze medal place, and look at the reaction from Megan Oldham.
Canada with its second medal of these Winter Olympics. Good morning. I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. That medal was won just a short time ago in slopestyle, a bronze by Megan Oldham. The Parry Sound, Ontario native saved her best for last, combining a high degree of difficulty and considerable calm in nailing her third and final trick-filled run. And hers wasn't the only notable performance in the race. Mont-Tremblant, Quebec's Naomi Ernest finished in 7th. Neither Canadian was expected to end up so high. Switzerland's Mathilde Grimaud won gold, while Chinese superstar Eileen Gu claimed the silver. If there's another sport Canada could make the podium in today, it's speed skating. Quebec City's Béatrice Lamarche will compete in the 1,000 meters. Lamarche won bronze in the discipline at a World Cup event last November. She is considered a long shot for the podium in an event Dutch woman Jutta Leerman, American YouTuber Jake Paul's fiancée, is the favorite to win. That race will go at 11:30 this morning Eastern Time.
Well, no medals, but some great memories for Steven Gogolev.
That is Toronto figure skater Steven Gogolev finishing his routine in men's singles. It was part of, as it turned out, a fifth-place finish for Canada in the team event. Disappointing after first and fourth-place showings at the previous two Olympics. With more from Milano, here is CBC's Devin Haru.
The Canadians just not able to find the podium in the figure skating team event, finishing fifth overall. They came into the final day of competition sitting just 2 points behind the Italians for the bronze medal position, but dropped back to fifth. For Italy, they've made history. For the first time in this event at the Games, they have found their way onto the podium, a bronze medal, and what a scene it was here at the main ice skating arena. The fans cheering and waving Italian flags, a great moment for them. It was the quad god, that's his nickname, Ilya Malinin, leading the Americans to the gold medal in this event for back-to-back games. Japan just missing the gold medal, finishing with silver. That's the second consecutive time they have finished second in this event. So now the focus shifts to the individual figure skating events, and we start with the rhythm dance, the ice dancers for CBC Olympics in Milano. I'm Devin Haru.
And that ice dancing gets underway at 1:20 Eastern Time, 11:20 this morning, Mountain.
An open hit to take the win, and no problem. And Canada, they take the fourth win of the championship.
In curling, Canadians Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman wrapped up their competition this morning in mixed doubles, and they did it on a winning note, topping the Swiss 8-4. The Canadian pair from Chestermere, Alberta, will not play for a medal. This is the second straight Winter Olympics the country's been held off the podium. Canada, of course, won gold back in 2018, the inaugural year for mixed doubles. Gallant, though, still has a shot at a curling medal in Italy. He's part of Brad Jacobs' rink that will play in the men's competition beginning on Wednesday. Meanwhile, there's also women's hockey to look forward to later today. Setting that game up, CBC's Carissa Donkin.
The Czechs won't go away easy. That was the message from Kristina Kaltonkova, the New York Siren star who's playing in her first Olympic Games for the Czech Republic. They're a physical hockey team, and they've got 8 players coming from the world's top league, including Kaltonkova, who leads the PWHL in goal scoring in her rookie season. The Czechs go into the game with a little bit of momentum after shutting out rival Finland 2-0 on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Canadians have played only one game at the Olympics so far, but it was a dominant win over the Swiss, a 4-0 shutout where Canada's power play stood out, and so did a second line of Darryl Watts, Sarah Nurse, and Sarah Fillier. It will be back-to-back games for the Canadians to start the week. Waiting on the other side on Tuesday will be the American team, likely the toughest test yet. Carissa Donkin, CBC Sports, Toronto.
And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regehr.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 0 in downtown Winnipeg. It's going to be mild throughout most of this week. Today, we're just going to see a slight dip in the temperature, falling to -3 this afternoon. 2 women are dead after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to a home on Agnes just before 10 Saturday morning. Samantha Nikolic lives across the street.
It was so early in the morning, I'm thinking they got to be in there. So I came to my door, and right away, as soon as I opened my door, I could hear them like, "Help me!" and like I could see the girl in the top window trying to get out.
Police say an 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman who were taken to hospital in critical condition have both since died. A third person, who was also critical, has now been upgraded to stable. It took nearly 5 hours for crews to declare the blaze under control. The cause of that fire on Agnes is still under investigation. A Manitoba doctor is warning people who are not vaccinated against measles to consider avoiding big public gatherings. This, as the province says, the public may have been exposed to the disease at Brandon's Ag Days. Organizers say thousands went to the January fair. Philip Lagasse-Wiens is a medical microbiologist at the University of Manitoba. He says the only way to protect against the measles is to get your shot.
Measles is so infectious that avoiding contact, keeping your 6 feet apart actually doesn't protect us very much. It's because it stays airborne for hours after a person with measles has been in a room.
Measles cases continue to grow, with Manitoba registering the highest monthly measles case count last month. A class action lawsuit launched by family members of residents who died during a COVID-19 outbreak at a Winnipeg long-term care home is now moving forward. The deaths of 56 residents at Maples long-term care home were linked to an outbreak there between October 2020 and January 2021. The lawsuit names the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the home's former operator, Rivera, as defendants. It was certified by a Court of King's Bench justice earlier this month. Eddie Callisto Tavares' 88-year-old father died during the outbreak.
It feels good, not just for me, but for the many families. Because for me, it's always the reminder that we cannot forget what happened, that those residents, regardless of age and regardless of where they were in their life cycle, they mattered.
The health authority says it can't comment on matters before the courts. CBC has also reached out to Rivera for comment. The allegations in this lawsuit have not been tested in court. 6 days after the deaths of 3 young hockey players in southern Alberta, families, fellow players, and the community came together last night to honor the team's memory. The players were killed in a crash between their car and a semi-truck. Ghislaine Maxwell will likely plead the Fifth Amendment today when she appears before a U.S. congressional committee. It is investigating the federal government's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein crimes. U.S. media reports say Maxwell will only read from a prepared statement and refuse to answer questions. She will appear by video link from her Texas prison. Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Families new to Canada got to pass around a hockey puck at Camp Manitu this weekend. True North's 9th Welcome to Winnipeg event for newcomers. Welcome Place, which provides settlement services to refugees, was also part of yesterday's event. Families were bused to the Headingley camp to try to take their first steps in skating, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and tobogganing. It is 12-year-old Safi Mretab's second winter in Winnipeg.
I learned to walk a bit on the skating rink. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, I like the sledding the most. Yeah.
About 200 newcomers are registered in this past and upcoming event for March. True North is looking for more sponsors to get more people out. The Seattle Seahawks are this year's Super Bowl champions. In last night's big game, they beat the New England Patriots 29-13. But it was the halftime show featuring Puerto Rican performer Bad Bunny that ended up making news at the stadium and beyond. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show can be described as a celebration of his home island. He performed mostly in Spanish. The Puerto Rican flag was waving. Celebrities dancing in the crowd seemed to love the show. The U.S. president says he did not. You can find more news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Turn that up.
Oh, there we go.
Right?
I liked it.
It was fun. It's fun and colorful and joyful and all that. Yeah. Super fun. Thanks, Heath.
Thank you.
I have something equal to match that. Lots of times I have to go into a serious news story, but I don't feel that bad fading out Bad Bunny because I have some cutie patootie kids standing by to talk to us about Valentine's Day. So stay tuned, and we're going to take you to their classroom. Right now, though, we have to talk about the regional forecast for Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and the forecast here, really nice to start Monday in the south, some north coming up north, especially Thompson. Let's start here where we have a mostly clear sky, actually, it looks like, but we have a lot of light already this morning in downtown Winnipeg. We are going to have a cloudy start, though. Our temperature is going to fall to -3, and it is 0 right now in Winnipeg. Tonight, mainly cloudy, chance of flurries, the low -9. Tomorrow, clearing, high -7. Brandon, you have light rain right now, and that could become an issue because right now it's 2, so it'll be wet, but the temperature for you is going to fall to -2, so it could get a bit icy out there. You're going to have cloudy day, partly cloudy tonight as well, and then you'll go down to a low of -10. Tomorrow, some sunshine and -6. By Thursday in the south, we get really warm, above 0 again if the forecast holds. And finally, to our regional forecast, let's go north to Thompson, where, as I mentioned, snow's on the way, 2 to 4 centimeters, a high -13. Chance of light snow tonight, the low down to -17. And for you, Thompson, tomorrow, just a chance that light snow is going to continue with a high of -14. By Thursday, because we're mentioning it, you also will be warm, not quite above 0, but you're going to be right around -4 if the forecast holds. So Thursday's looking like the warmest day of the week. The commute has been pretty good so far. Sierra Sanders is just coming in with an update in case there's anything to mention this hour specifically. Hi.
There really isn't, Marcy. You almost just did it for me, which I think would have worked as well. But yes, it's been a very quiet day on the commuter line, which is kind of good. To me, that sounds like things are moving smoothly out there. But if that's not the case and there is something that has popped up on your commute that's getting in your way and is causing some backups, I'd love to hear about it, whether you are here in Winnipeg or anywhere else in the province. I'd love to know. So give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
Well, a Manitoba grade 1 class is trying to collect as many Valentine's Day cards as possible from across the world. Their teacher has created a Facebook post to spread the word, and she did that on January 25th. And it's safe to say they've reached more people than expected. Shakina Patterson is a grade 1 teacher at Charles Sinclair School in Fisher River Cree Nation. Hi, Mrs. Patterson.
Hi, good morning.
She's with us via Zoom this morning, so I can see behind her just a bulletin board full of all kinds of Valentines. And then there's 3 students. So who is Holden? Hi, Holden. Hello, that is Holden Owens. And then there's Ayana. Who's Ayana? Is that you in your pink sweatshirt with that big smile, Ayana? Hi, I'm Marcy. Nice to meet you. And then we also have Demi with us. Hi, Demi. You want to wave hi to Winnipeg? They're all very quiet. Hi. Well, we got a wave there. I love this. So, Mrs. Patterson, what is behind you? How many cards have you got so far?
So far, we've gotten about 112.
They're so cool. They're beautiful. Where are they coming from?
All over. Last week we got from all over Canada. Over email, we got from Abu Dhabi, Japan, New York, all over, Australia.
Wow. So who wants to tell me about their favorite card? Don't be shy. I would love to hear. Does somebody want to go first? I'm going to try to get the kids to tell us about their card.
Go ahead, come stand right here.
Mrs. Patterson will help you. Hi, Ayana. So what's your favorite?
Punjabi.
Punjabi?
Abu
Dhabi. It's hard to hear, sorry. That's so cool. Wow. How about you, Demi? You want to go next? What's your favorite card? Where did it come from?
You gotta look up here and talk loud, okay?
Alberta.
Oh, wow. So from Calgary, Alberta? Another province. That's very cool. How come that was your favorite?
I don't know.
No? Wow. Are they all really colorful, Demi? It looks like they're really pretty cards, too. Very cool. How about you? Holden? You want to come up and tell us about your very favorite card? What's your favorite? Mrs. Patterson, I'll help you out.
Somewhere. I think last time you said it was from New York. Did you like that one? Yeah. It was the best of it. Can I tell you from New York? New York.
New York.
I like my car from New York.
Excellent. Love it. Thank you, guys. I'm going to talk to your teacher for a bit, but stay there and keep smiling because you're cutie patootie on our Zoom feed. What was your reaction, Mrs. Patterson, when all these cards are coming back to your grade 1 kids from all over the place?
It's overwhelming in the best way possible. Just a lot of positivity and love and kindness being shown back to us when this wasn't the intention at all. Well, I never imagined it would get this big, so it's crazy.
What was the intention? What was your hope with the project for your grade 1s?
I have family in Alberta and BC, so I thought maybe I'll get like 1 or 2 cards, maybe a couple shares on Facebook, but the last I checked, the shares were at 1.5K and it was viewed over almost 35,000 times.
Wow.
So I have no idea.
Now, I also have to mention I love your heart sweater this morning that you're wearing. Very nice. So these cards are coming right to your school in northern Manitoba. Are the kids writing back then, or what's the plan?
Oh, yeah. So we have a printout that we're going to insert with the kids' cards. So they're coloring and they're making cards. But it's gotten so big that I've actually asked for the school's help. So we have different classrooms helping us, and everyone's signing their name. So it kind of went beyond my classroom and into the whole school. So it's really nice.
That's fantastic. And in terms of the Cree language, you guys are sharing that a little bit as well, right?
Oh yeah. We have a message in Cree, thanking everyone for sharing the love and spreading kindness around the world. And we have an English translation on the back. So that's going to be going on.
And did I ask directly how many? I was looking at the bulletin boards full of different colorful cards and cutouts, but how many have you received so far? Do you have a sense of the number?
From what I've counted, about like 112 so far. Yeah, and they even got packages with like sweet treats and pencils and stickers and activity books and everything. So it's not just cards, and it's really awesome.
Yeah. Hey kids, what's it like when you get the treats and everything? How has this been for you? Are you liking it?
Yeah. Say that.
Some little yes. Little yes. Look at their smiles. They're so cute. Of course it is. They're being shy, but the benefit is that we're getting to see them on camera. I love it. I love that they're telling us about this. Why do you think it's taken off so much, this project about love, this simple little thing?
I think it's just like, personally, just with how heavy everything is in the world right now, like not just in Canada, since we're receiving from Canadians and Americans across, it's just a really nice way to shed some light on the more important things. So love and being kind, and these simple acts could literally change the world. I mean, it's changing the dynamic in my classroom, and we're just a small Cree community in Manitoba. So
how is it changing the dynamic in your classroom?
The kids are just like, they're learning about the world. They're learning about love and the many forms of love and kindness. And they're getting an idea that it's not just Fish River, or maybe they know Fish River in Winnipeg. And they're just learning about more than their community, and in a positive way. And that's beautiful.
There's a map involved that I mentioned here. I actually think we might even have a picture of it. So how are you using that as part of your lesson?
So on our social studies unit, we're working on all about Canada and our connections in the world. So I wanted to show them that they have connections around the world. Like, you don't need to be friends or family. Like, we have friends in the Middle East. We have friends in New York. We have friends who play in the NHL, and it's really awesome.
What does that mean, you have friends who play in the NHL?
Oh, we got a Valetine from Ethan Bear. He plays for with the New York Islanders.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. What are you hoping, Mrs. Patterson, other grade 1 classrooms might do then? You got a bit of a call to action, I heard.
Our grade 1 class would like to challenge other classrooms out there, not just grade 1, anybody really, to just continue to spread love and kindness and share some Valentines this season.
Oh, I love that. So maybe they can send some to you in Fisher River, and then you guys will send back your notes. Now, my last question's for Ayana. Hey, Ayana, can you come up to the thing, and I'm going to ask you a question? Okay. Where are Lilo and Stitch from? Where do they come from?
Hawaii.
Yeah. I heard that you would like to get a card from Hawaii because of that. Is that right? All right.
Yes. She's nodding.
Yeah, that's good. So you know what? Maybe someone listening, you never know, is going to be either in Hawaii or maybe they know someone in Hawaii. Maybe they can help you out and send it up there. Okay, you guys want to say a big bye to everybody in Manitoba? Say bye. Bye-bye. Now they actually did say bye, but our signal cut out for a sec. Listen, thank you all for joining us. We all really needed a bit of this joy on a Monday morning. It's a beautiful project. Kids are adorable. And congratulations, Mrs. Patterson, on coming up with a beautiful idea.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
That's Mrs. Patterson. She's a grade 1 teacher at Charles Sinclair School up in Fisher River Cree Nation. We connected to them via Zoom, which is obviously why I was describing their classroom and all those cards in the background. We talked to 3 of her students, Ayana Amos, as well as Demi Cameron and Holden Owens. If you want to send them a Valentine's card, Mrs. Patterson's class, Charles Sinclair School, P.O. Box 109, and I'll post this on my Facebook page, Fisher River, Manitoba, Canada. Pardon me, ROC 150, ROC 1SO, pardon me. And I hope I'm getting that right. It's probably a 0 actually, R0C 1SO. I hope that's right. I'll say it again later. I'll post it on my Facebook page. Please send the kids a card. Here's a bit of music from the Funky Miracles and Noah Dirksen.
A light, a certain kind of light that never shone on me. I wanted my whole life to be there with you, there with you. There's a way. Everybody says, do each and every little thing. Oh, but what good does it bring if I ain't got you? If I ain't got you, baby, you don't know what it's like. Oh, baby.
Just a little bit of love for you after a lovely interview with Mrs. Patterson's class, and to give me time to get the postal code right. So if you want to write to them, Mrs. Patterson's class, Charles Sinclair School, P.O. Box 109, Fisher River, Manitoba, Canada. Send them a Valentine, R03, R0C 1S0. Up next at 10 to 8 on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I'm brave doing more numbers right now. Let's talk about something that is in the news this week. It marks the start of public hearings in an inquiry about the Winnipeg Police Service headquarters project, the construction of which you might recall went tens of millions of dollars over budget. It's already been the subject of 2 external audits, a 5-year RCMP investigation, which didn't result in any changes. And then there was the pair of civil lawsuits, one of which concluded former CAO Phil Shiegel accepted a $327,000 bribe. CBC reporter Bartley Kivas has been covering the police headquarters controversy since day one for many years. He will be attending the inquiry this week, which gets underway tomorrow, and he's in studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So, as I mentioned, we've done countless news stories. You've done countless stories on the RCMP investigation, the court cases around this. What is left to learn about the WPS headquarters construction at this point?
Well, what is left to learn, and that is the key question here. There have been, and let's be clear, this isn't just a controversy. This wasn't about money, and projects go over budget all the time. What we heard from the last civil lawsuit from the city of Winnipeg versus Phil Shiegel, the former chief administrative officer of the city, was that Mr. Shiegel received, according to the court, a $327,000 bribe from Armic Babakanians of Caspian Construction, the main contractor, in exchange for showing favor to Caspian in the bidding process. A lot of what we know from literally thousands and thousands of emails amassed by the RCMP through their investigation, which were then acquired by the city of Winnipeg following a court case of their own to inform their civil lawsuit against both Mr. Shiegel and a separate lawsuit that has been settled by Mr. Babakanians. So what is left to learn here is we have not heard from people like Phil Shiegel, from Mr. Babakanians, Armic Babakanians, or from Sam Cates, the former mayor, who, as it was pointed out by Justice Christopher Minella in the appeal case that Phil Shiegel lost, Cates received precisely half the amount of money that Mr. Shiegel received. So, according to Justice Minella, Mr. Cates actually is a key player in this. So we're going to hear from some of these people directly. Public inquiries do not assign blame. They do not yield any information that can be then used for a court case, whether it's civil or whether it's criminal. It's to hear more from actual people and to find out, basically, this inquiry has to mine the margins between the information that we already know and what may be new coming out from some of the principal players.
So you mentioned some of the principal players. Is the word testify? Like, will we?
Yeah, they'll be under oath.
Yeah. So will we hear then Sam Cates testify?
Sam Cates is slated to speak on Thursday. Before that, we're going to hear from Barb Davignon. She is a procurement official at the city of Winnipeg. Jason Ruby, a finance official who had a role in the police headquarters project back in the day. There will be the inquiry is called a lawyer named Eleanor Andres, who is apparently an expert in contracts law. We're going to hear from Sean Barnes of PCL Construction. They're one of the big companies that was shortlisted for the for the police headquarters project, but ultimately did not win out to Babakanians. And I will point out here, and this is the work I did back when I was at the Free Press. If you look at the way that the construction contracts were tendered, there was a change made 6 days prior to the closing deadline that the qualifying firm wouldn't be subject to the same bonding restrictions. So we know from emails that Barb Davignon, who I mentioned, had objected to that. So we're going to hear a little bit more about this. This all might sound arcane to some people, but this is a project that's been going on back since 2008 is when the police service was started kicking the tires at the Canada Post building and started actually looking into buying this. This has been going on for a very long time.
Now, you mentioned that whoever is going to testify this week is under oath, has to tell the truth. They have to answer the questions, but they can, I understand, say they don't know?
Well, anyone can say they don't remember. I mean, I'm not going to prejudge what people are going to say.
Mm-hmm. But it's important for people to understand they're under oath.
They are under oath. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, like a public utilities board meeting, like many others.
You spoke to retired political scientist Paul Thomas about this inquiry, who's also been following this, right? What did he say that you want to share?
Well, Mr. Thomas said that Mr. Cates's presence there is going to create some expectations, perhaps some unrealistic expectations here. I mean, a lot of members of the general public think we're going to finally get to the bottom of this. We're going to blame somebody. That's not what inquiries typically do. So he expressed some pessimism that we are going to hear something new about this. I mean, there are a lot of other things that transpired during the Kate Schiegel era at City Hall that we don't know about. And when former Mayor Bowman and council at City Hall asked the province to commission an inquiry, it was into the whole shebang, essentially, not just the police headquarters. The terms of reference for this inquiry are very clear and very narrow. They are looking at the construction project, and not even those, perhaps as much as those early days questions that I don't know the answers to. Why was the city of Winnipeg so hell-bent on only looking at this one building that they purchased? Why did they pay $30 million for the right to purchase a Canada Post building? This stuff probably won't be the substance of the inquiry. It's strictly going to be looking at the construction.
A narrow focus.
Yeah, but Commissioner Garth-Morang has said they're not planning to redo the work of previous documentation.
So you continue to mention the commissioner, the person running the inquiry, right? So what else did she tell you that you still want to mention before you go?
Garth-Morang is the commissioner. I spoke to Heather Leonoff, counsel for the inquiry. Person will be asking questions of witnesses on behalf of the inquiry. And what Ms. Leonoff said is essentially they have to be careful here too. They want to see what would be valuable to hear from people's own mouths and what would be valuable to simply rely on the written word that we already know. And she stressed they have very specific terms of reference, but it is still a pretty broad inquiry. They have a limited amount of time. I mean, while the hearing dates are going to go all the way into June here, they cannot go down, as Heather Leonoff said, rabbit holes on various other issues. They want to be focused on the construction component.
And just last, what you mentioned through this a little bit, but what else are you specifically looking for as this gets underway?
I am simply looking to see, as a person who's covered this for, 20 years. I said 18 back to 2008, but it was really when the city realized that the limestone cladding in the old public safety building was going to be a lot more expensive to replace that this really started. So this is a 20-year-old project. I'm going to be looking to see if there's something we haven't heard before, something new, some sort of revelation. And ultimately, the province wants to find out what kind of processes the city can improve to come out of this. The city has done a lot of stuff, according to former Mayor Bowman, So the idea here is this is a whole other. We could get into the politics of the frame of reference for the nature of this inquiry. They could have spent more time looking as opposed to analyzing. Quite frankly, City of Winnipeg had processes in place that they didn't even follow back then. This we know.
All right, Bartley, thank you.
You are more than welcome.
Well, Bartley's certainly the right person to send to this. He will ask the questions to the things we don't know because he'll know them before we will. Bartley Kivas, reporter for CBC Manitoba. Coming up after 8 o'clock, speaking of questions, it's tax time, but if the Canada Revenue Agency messes something up at their end, some Canadians report waiting months to get reimbursed. And one of the issues is a growing problem. So stay tuned for that after 8. Right now, Heather Wells with other headlines.
2 women have died after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to that home on Agnes Saturday morning. We're going to hear from a woman who lives across the street who says when she opened her door, she could hear people calling for help. And Manitoba's growing measles case count and new exposure sites have health experts cautioning about large gatherings. The province says thousands may have been exposed to measles at the Ag Days in Brandon in January. Your next news locally coming up at 8:30.
Grant Pamela, there's been a collision. It's backed up now, so be careful there. And World Report's next.
Today on Q.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power.
Sometimes it's hard to know what to do.
My Father's Shadow is a deeply personal film from director Akinola Davis Jr., inspired by losing his father as a child. He'll be here to talk about the film and why telling Nigeria's lesser-known history matters to him.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Peter Armstrong. The federal government is expanding the GST rebate for millions of Canadians, and some economists say it's a good step to tackle the cost of living. But others say low-income Canadians need more help with their grocery bills. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ghislaine Maxwell will be questioned by a U.S. House committee today on her dealings with Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell is in prison serving a 20-year sentence for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls. But the committee may not hear much from her. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. Willie, what are we expecting today?
That's right. Ghislaine Maxwell is expected to plead the Fifth later today when she appears from prison in front of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. According to U.S. media reports, she'll read from a prepared statement. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna, who co-led efforts to release the Epstein files, said in a letter that he believes Maxwell will refuse to answer questions. Maxwell is 4 years into a 20-year sentence for conspiring and helping Jeffrey Epstein to sexually exploit girls. The Oversight Committee is investigating the federal government's handling of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. They're expected to hear from former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton later this month.
Willie, the Department of Justice is allowing Congress to view unredacted Epstein files. What can you tell us about that?
So there's been widespread frustration with just how much information the Department of Justice redacted from the 3 million files it released pertaining to Epstein. Now lawmakers will have the opportunity to review the unaltered documents. They'll only be allowed to take notes, and their aides will not be allowed in. This comes after the House Judiciary Committee's ranking member, Democrat Jamie Raskin, sent a letter to the DOJ requesting access. In the letter, he said the committee wants to ensure that the redactions comply with the Act's requirement that materials be withheld only in narrow circumstances.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. The UK and European Union are calling for Jimmy Lai's immediate release. The former Hong Kong media tycoon has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was convicted of sedition and collusion with foreign powers under China's controversial security law. Lai often used his newspaper, The Apple Daily, to promote democracy and criticize Beijing. Ted Hui is a former Hong Kong legislator who now lives in Australia.
It is a textbook political verdict, and it is very, very harsh. I think the target of the regime is not genuine criminal conduct, not at all, but voices that stood for democracy, freedom, and pluralism.
Lai is 78 years old. His daughter says, quote, he will die a martyr behind bars. Canada's Olympic medal count is growing.
Bronze medalist representing Canada, Megan Oldham.
24-year-old skier Megan Oldham just won bronze in freestyle skiing women's slope style. Oldham tumbled at the end of her second set in Livigno, Italy, but pulled up her score in the third and final run.
Going into my third run, honestly, I was in a lot of pain. Like, my quad is really sore. But I just was like, I know I need to land another run if I want to be up there. And it was just like dead set, like I need to land this. So I'm really proud of myself.
This brings Canada's medal count to 2 bronze medals. The community of Stavely, Alberta, is paying tribute to 3 young hockey players. The teens died in a collision between their car and a semi-truck a week ago. As Joe Horwood reports, people gathered in the community arena yesterday for a game of remembrance.
A moment of silence, broken by the sounds of support for players on the ice and those missing. Chris Wright says joining the team was his son's first time away from home.
He was thriving. He was flourishing. I won't speak to the other families, but our hearts are absolutely broken for them. And we know exactly what they're going through.
J.J. Wright, Cameron Casorso, and Caden Fine all played for the Southern Alberta Mustangs. This memorial game against the Stavely Spurs alumni team intended as a meaningful space to honor the players. All 3 lived with Morgan and John Dozeman, their billet family.
They're all ours, too.
We had a short time with them, and I'm so very grateful for every second that we got to spend with them.
Organizers say they're planning a larger memorial event for the wider hockey community in the near future. Joe Horwood, CBC News, in Stavely, Alberta.
A Munich security conference report says the world has entered an era of uncertainty. The analysis builds on the case Prime Minister Mark Carney made during his Davos speech. As Murray Brewster tells us, it says Western nations should continue to defend their values, even after the old world order has broken down.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
Prime Minister Mark Carney in Davos recently. A warning heard around the world that's now being amplified in a new report ahead of this week's Munich Security Conference.
We have ended up in a period of wrecking world politics.
Sophie Eisentraut, head of research at the Munich Security Conference.
We are currently seeing the rise of political actors who do not promise reform or repair, but who are very explicit about wanting to tear down existing institutions. And we call them the demolition men.
If middle power nations that still subscribe to Western values of human rights and rule of law are going to band together, as Carney has suggested, it's going to require sustained investment, credibility, and trust. That's according to the Security Conference report released today. More importantly, they're going to have to show up for one another in times of crisis. It was at last year's Munich conference that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance launched a scalding attack on European democracies. Polling data that forms part of this year's report shows trust in the United States has eroded significantly, where 2/3 of respondents in Germany and absolute majorities in Canada, the United Kingdom, and France say Washington has become a less reliable ally, even a threat. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Portugal has a new socialist president. Supporters greet Antonio José Seguro after he won the rare runoff election. He took just over 66% of the vote. Seguro was up against a surge of support for the far-right candidate. In the end, the populist Chega party only managed to secure about 33% of the vote. Immigration and the cost of living were among the main election issues. Some taxpayers who are disputing CRA errors face long and frustrating delays. A Go Public investigation revealed the agency says it is hiring staff to reduce the backlog, and as Sophia Harris reports, a new tax season is just around the corner.
Looks like it's gone up $36 again.
Bill Bisson refuses to pay his $3,400 tax penalty, so it keeps going up due to mounting interest.
But it goes up, I don't know, every couple of weeks, I guess, every month.
The latest tally, nearly $3,900. Bisson's tax advisor says the penalty is an obvious error, the result of the Canada Revenue Agency mistakenly doubling one of Bisson's tax slips when assessing his 2023 return.
I mean, I've done nothing wrong.
His tax advisor filed a request to get the penalty dropped. 10 months later, Bisson still waits for a resolution, even though the CRA's goal is to settle these cases within 6 months.
I just want it resolved. It's frustrating. It's created a lot of stress for me.
The CRA is warning of delays for certain disputes, tax adjustments, and penalty relief requests, blaming a surge in demand. Marc Briere is president of the Union for Tax Employees. He says the CRA exacerbated the problem by failing to renew contracts for 450 appeals branch workers last year.
We warned them of the impact it would have. It obviously made the situation worse, and they acknowledged that.
The tax agency did not confirm the job cuts, but did say it's working to reduce the backlog by streamlining, modernizing, and hiring more workers. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Bad Bunny is now a household name. His Super Bowl halftime show brought scenes from Puerto Rico into the living rooms of America. There was a roadside fruit stand, old men playing dominoes, people hard at work laying bricks. The celebration of Bad Bunny's home island was 13 minutes, mostly in Spanish, and it featured cameos by Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin. There was a lot of controversy leading up to this halftime show. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would not watch, but it seems that he did. Online last night, Trump called it an affront to the greatness of America. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio live on CBC. Thanks for joining us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. Pretty warm out there to start. Although, be aware, because when we're right around zero and the temperature is going to fall, which it is in southern Manitoba today, especially Winnipeg, Brandon, it could get a little bit icy, and there's light rain that's been reported already in Westman. Well, this half hour in the show, we're going to build on that story that you might have heard on World Report about the Canada Revenue Agency. What happens if they mess something up? As you've been hearing some Canadians say, they've waited months to get reimbursed, and one of the issues specifically is a growing problem. So we're going to have a full report from one of our CBC journalists. You've been writing in from Manitoba about your challenges. Britt Patrick said they charged me $13,000 for back payments on my child tax because of a clerical error, and it took 18 months to fix. Longer to get my money back. So many of you have had issues. We'll share more of your comments locally that have been coming into our Facebook page. But first, we are going to get into that report. Right now, though, Heather Wells is here with other developing news. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, 2 women have died after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to a home on Agnes Saturday morning. Police say an 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman who were taken to hospital in critical condition have since died. A third person who was in critical condition has now been upgraded to stable. A Manitoba justice has certified a class action lawsuit against the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the former operator of a care home where there was a deadly COVID-19 outbreak. The deaths of 56 residents at the Maples long-term care home were linked to an outbreak at that facility between October 2020 and January 2021. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
In Winnipeg today, as I've been alluding to, it is going to be pretty wet to start, and then temperature's going to fall a little bit. 0 is where we're at right now. We will fall right to around -3 this afternoon. Cloudy to start, though bright out there, which is really nice. And our winds will be northwest 20 to 40 for most of the morning. Tonight, mainly cloudy still, 30% chance of some flurries, a low -9. Tomorrow, we should get some clearing and a high of -7. Brandon, similar temperature falling to -2. Right now, you are sitting at 1 degree. And in Thompson, expecting today 2 to 4 centimeters of snow. So that's a little bit of a different forecast to the south. And your high's -13. Right now up in Thompson, it's -16. With details on the morning commute, Sierra Sanders is back in. Good morning.
Good morning. I've been getting a few calls. I got a call from Mandeep and Phil, both about the same thing. A collision just after Grant and Pembina going northbound. So you are getting just after the intersection there, you are down to 1 lane. So you're down to the median lane, the far left lane, I should say. The curb lane and median lane are kind of blocked off due to a collision. It's sounding like a car collided with a bus. So that sounds like the situation there. And from what I heard from Mandeep, it looked like to be backed up to Stafford and Pembina. So it is moving quite slow there. So collision there, northbound Grant and Pembina, just after the intersection. You're down to 1 lane there due to a collision. And I am hearing that it is quite slow there going northbound Pembina. So keep that in mind if that is on your commute. I know it can get quite busy there during the morning rush hour. So be aware, maybe try and find an alternate route if that is the case. If you have any updates on any other situations or this situation that I just talked about, we still have a little bit of time left in the show. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
It's that time of year again, tax time, and owing taxes is stressful enough. But what about when you owe money in error? CBC's Go Public found some Canadians looking to fix apparent errors on their tax record and hitting a wall. Complaints and processing times for several Canada Revenue Agency services are growing, and for some that's resulted in months of delays and frustration. Go Public producer Yvette Bren joins us now to walk us through this. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcia.
So what are you hearing about why taxpayers are calling out the CRA?
Well, this all started for us with several emails to the Go Public inbox, and one from Nova Scotia really caught my eye. William Bisson was one of several people who described problems they were having getting errors fixed on their tax record. He's 65, a registered nurse that's delaying retirement because he can't afford this.
And then this has been dragging on now for going on 2 years. I'm going to be submitting another tax return with 2023's tax return still unresolved. I just want it resolved. It's frustrating. It's created a lot of stress for me. In fact, you end up with these recurring dreams. You feel like you're drowning.
So you can hear the frustration in his voice. He's been waiting for more than 10 months to get a $3,900 tax bill fixed. And he says this is money he does not owe, and the interest keeps growing. He went to his tax advisor. He even reached out to his local MP. He tried everything before going to go public.
Tell us what happened in his case.
Well, this is the real rub. According to his tax advisor, Bisson's dispute arose from an accident. One of his income slips was accidentally doubled when the CRA assessed him in 2023, and his tax advisor told us this was not his fault, and yet here he is.
What makes you think that this isn't just one weird case then, Yvette?
Well, we talked to a lot of tax professionals and advisors and looked into a series of complaints, and it turns out this is a growing problem. Helena Ferrara is a tax advisor in Hamilton, and she says many of her clients have endured long delays to resolve CRA disputes. She's seen at least 2 cases involving the CRA accidentally doubling income slips when assessing clients in 2023 tax returns. And, these are average Canadians that can't afford a tax lawyer. And she says in those cases, one took 18 months to fix and the other is still pending.
It's really hard. I have clients that come in and they're in tears. I have clients that come in, they're in despair. They have no idea why it happened, what is happening, why they owe. And I have people that have almost become homeless.
Wow. What does the CRA say about this then?
Well, on their own website, it warns about processing delays for several key services, and these include tax adjustments, objections or disputes, and requests to waive penalties. They're grappling also with more complaints about service, and all this is adding to the backlogs. A typical 6-month wait to waive tax penalties can now take up to a year or even longer.
Where does it leave Canadians then who are facing a tax dispute and, with no answers?
Well, let me introduce you to Christine Giles. She spent 10 years fighting to get her daughter approved for a disability credit and estimates CRA now owes her $15,000 in back taxes. And she says she needs that money now to pay for her daughter's medical needs, but the CRA told her to expect another wait of 7 months or even more. So she's hoping to finally see results by early March.
It's just wildly unfair to me. But if I owed it, they'd be all over it and after it. But there's no repercussions for them.
So, she and others are arguing that the agency that can come after Canadians who owe them, even garnish your wages, needs to be held to its own standards when it makes a mistake.
What's the solution here?
Well, Bisson says less automation and more hands-on staff might help.
I think that they need to hire more people, actually, to deal with all of these problems quickly, get their house in order, really, essentially.
And the CRA told us that they are doing that and trying to streamline, modernize, and cut those backlogs. But we talked to Mark Briere, the national president of the Union of Taxation Employees.
I think the government and the CRA got the message that they had reached rock bottom, and we need to go back up and give a better service to the population, to taxpayers, but also to businesses and accountants that were really upset with the delays and the problems in accessing the call centers, for example.
He says senior CRA officials are telling him that they're now scrambling to rehire staff to try to beef up various departments. He says this all comes after 11,000 CRA workers were let go over 24-25, and that left taxpayers facing these long, frustrating waits. And about 450 of those layoffs were in key areas that deal with disputes. So in the end, he's hoping that any new hires aren't just temporary for the tax season so that this problem is fixed for good.
All right, Yvette, thanks for your report.
Thank you.
Go Public producer Yvette Brand with a story about Canadians who can't get the money owed to them from the CRA, or they're facing long waits, as you heard. We asked you locally if you face this, so we asked Manitoba taxpayers, and a lot of you wrote to us. I've got time for 5 comments here. Judy Herskovich says, I sent in the correct information and they correct the error, but it takes a long time. In her case, it did. She says the online forms are sometimes tricky to understand. Erin Selby says, when my kids were young and in daycare, I had to prove they existed every year. The system, I guess, didn't understand that triplets really do have the same birth date. Chris Gardner wrote in, I have received my benefits for a year and haven't received my benefits for a year. I'm still waiting to process my husband's residency 3 months after he submitted forms. They say they can't pay for our family any benefits until they process his NR74, but they're past the allotted time to get it done. No communication or accountability. Ben Chappell says tax return short by $1,600 several years ago took 9 months to resolve. They were impossible to get a hold of. And finally, positive comment from Brian Jameson says, I haven't had to contact them for several years. No issues with them on business or personal. Mistakes were on my company's side or personally. They were straightforward and advised me concerning any credits or debts owing. If you want to write in, you can always share with us here at CBC on any of our streams. Well, before we go to Olympic Report, we want to touch base with our series of stories produced by the CREATE students at Sisler High School. This week, we're going to meet a teacher behind the bike den. CREATE students Caleb Saladago, Neva Davies, and Kinsley Chuchuk produced a short video about it. Here it is.
Kids working on bikes gets messy. It's a problem. They work hard. It's not a linear thing, but they work through it and they solve it. My name is Sean Reimer. I've taught at General Wolfe for about 12 years now. Mostly math and science is what I've taught. And now in the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to start up this program that we've called the Bike Den.
What you're going to do this? And then
when I first started teaching, I started as a substitute teacher in the Winnipeg School Division. This was quite a few years ago now, and I remember substituting at a Hugh John MacDonald school, and they have a really great bike program there. And when I was in that building, I had a chance to kind of poke my head in the door of that room and see the things that happen there. And I was really impressed and thought it looked really cool.
So here's some of my old coats.
I love my job working with kids and teaching math and teaching science, but to have the opportunity to do something a little bit more hands-on with smaller groups was really appealing to me. And then, of course, I've always kind of enjoyed working on bikes and cycling myself. So to combine something that was a hobby outside of school with teaching here at General Wolfe was a no-brainer. At General Wolfe, the Bike Den is a program for grade 9 students where they are given a bike that we have at the school. The bikes are donated by an organization called The Wrench. The Wrench is a non-profit community bike shop, and they have a massive amount of bikes there, which they get out to people in Winnipeg who might not have opportunity to get a bike. Students learn repair and maintenance skills. They basically strip the bike down and rebuild it. And at the conclusion, then they get to keep the bike. They get a lock, they get a helmet, they learn some safe riding skills as well.
My name is Colin Porter. I decided to join Bike Den and this year because I've been wanting to have a bike to get around and stuff. The buses are complicated, so for me it's easier to just bike back and forth, and I didn't have a bike for the longest time. And then when I saw the opportunity in Bike Den, I decided to take it, and Mr. Armour accepted me.
On a typical day when we have our Bike Den program, students will come in, they'll get the bike repair stands, and they'll put their bike on there. There's such a value in the students kind of struggling with something, keep working at it and figure out the problem and solve it for themselves. A challenge would be that I am not able to get the number of students through the program that want to be part of it. With the number of bikes we have and with the space we have, also finding the space to do it has been a little bit of a challenge as well. If you've seen the shots of the Bike Den room, it's quite full. So then we are moving supplies from there to the library or to a different classroom to set up.
I think it's quick release. I think you'll be okay with it.
If I had to describe the Bike Den in one word, it would probably be authentic. Smaller groups of students working on hands-on things within a school. It's such a valuable thing to have in a school, so students can have those opportunities to experience what school is like in different ways that are outside of the traditional classroom, which can sometimes have a lot of kids in them.
Videos from Sisler grade students, go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Neva Davies, Caleb Saladago, and Kingsley Shuchuk in support with CBC Manitoba for that one. Your Olympic update is coming up next.
Megan Oldham will reach the box in the bronze medal place. And look at the reaction from Megan Oldham.
Bronze for Canada today, courtesy of freestyle skier Megan Oldham. Good morning. I'm Scott Regier with your Olympic Games report. Oldham's medal came in the slopestyle competition, where athletes take on a variety of obstacles, from rails to different kinds of jumps, and are judged on the breadth, originality, and quality of the stunts they perform. For the Parry Sound, Ontario native, her best effort was her third and final trip down the mountain, which came after she crashed on her previous attempt.
Going to my third run, honestly, I was in a lot of pain. Like, my quad is really sore, but I just was like, I know I need to land another run if I want to be up there. And it was just like dead set, like I need to land this. So I'm really proud of myself. I feel incredible. Oh my gosh, this is a moment I've been dreaming of my whole life. So I'm really, really stoked.
Megan Oldham, who wasn't the only Canadian stoked by their performance today, so was Mont-Tremblant, Quebec's Naomi Ernest, who in her Olympic debut finished 7th. Joining me now to discuss the race, CBC's Olympic freestyle analyst, Kaya Tursky. Good morning, Kaya.
Good morning.
So, your thoughts on Oldham's medal-winning performance this morning?
Wow. Well, it was a great performance. She really put it together in that clutch moment. So talk about persevering through challenging practice runs. Speed was difficult, and Megan really played smartly. She adjusted. She went all out, and just I still feel the chills. It was so exciting, and I feel so proud.
You're not alone around the country, I'm sure. But she had actually crashed in the previous run. Was that surprising that she performed so well in the third run after that crash?
Well, some athletes it can cause an unraveling, if you will. And then I would call it the champion's mindset to put those negative thoughts or negative runs in the past and focus on the task at hand, focus on the controllables. And that's what Megan did today. She didn't let that crash phase her, and she just reset, went for it, and obviously it paid off.
And even beyond Megan's great performance in winning the bronze, there were some notable performances in this race, among them a Canadian.
Absolutely. Naomi has had an absolute tear of a season. It's her debut on the World Cup circuit. So to be at the Olympics is already a huge feat. To make it into the finals was absolutely massive. Coming off of a big week at the X Games, this girl has a huge future ahead of her. And I believe she placed 6th. She was up there. She really gave the girls a run for their money, and just wonderful, wonderful performance by Naomi as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kaya.
Thank you.
That's CBC's Olympic freestyle skiing analyst, Kaya Tursky. Although they were Canada's best hopes for a medal on day 3 of these games, there are others besides the freestylers hoping to make the podium, notably in speed skating. Quebec City's Béatrice Lamarche. She will compete in the 1,000 meters. Lamarche won bronze in this event at a World Cup event back in November. The favorite in today's race, though, is Dutch woman Jutta Leerdam. She is a 2-time world champion and one of the sport's most colorful personalities, something she shares with her fiancé.
There's a left hook. Down goes Paul.
That is American YouTuber / boxer Jake Paul getting knocked out in December in a fight against Anthony Joshua. It was a controversial match, many called dangerous, given how much smaller and inexperienced Paul was compared to his competitor. And yet, despite a broken jaw, Paul still claimed his part of a close to $200 million purse. Not exactly long-track speed skating money. And to recap events so far on this third day of the Olympic Games, freestyle skier Megan Oldham with bronze this morning, Canada's second of these Winter Games. In terms of overall medals, Canada sits in 14th place, well behind Norway and its 6 podium finishes. Maybe the women's hockey team will have something to say about that. They play Czechia coming up later today. That is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we're still at 0. The temperature will slide ever so slightly through the day to -3 with a bit of a northwest breeze. The normal high this time of year is -9, so above normal today. 2 women have died after a house fire in Winnipeg's West End over the weekend. Firefighters were called to a home on Agnes Saturday morning just before 10. Samantha Nikolic lives across the street.
It was so early in the morning, I'm thinking they got to be in there. So I came to my door, and right away, as soon as I opened my door, I could hear them like, "Help me!" and like I could see the girl in the top window trying to get out.
Police say an 18-year-old woman and a 48-year-old woman who were taken to hospital in critical condition have since died. A third person who was also in critical condition has now been upgraded to stable. It took almost 5 hours for crews to declare that blaze on Agnes under control. The cause is still under investigation. St. John's High School is closed this morning because of a threat in that North End neighborhood. Winnipeg police say they were made aware of the threats. Major Crimes is investigating. Students and staff at St. John's High School are being advised not to report to school this morning out of an abundance of caution. Manitoba's growing measles case count and new exposure sites have health experts cautioning about large gatherings. The province says thousands may have been exposed to the measles at Ag Days in Brandon in January. If you are not immunized for the highly contagious virus, experts suggest avoiding big public events. University of Saskatchewan virologist Angie Rasmussen says babies who are not of age to get a shot should avoid crowds until this outbreak settles.
It's really unfortunate that parents have to make those choices, but that is what happens when the vaccination rate goes down like this, that basically there's no way to protect children from being exposed to this.
Rasmussen says herd immunity would protect unvaccinated people from measles, but at least 95% of people in a group need to be vaccinated. A class action lawsuit launched by family members of residents who died during a COVID-19 outbreak at a Winnipeg long-term care home is moving forward. The deaths of 56 residents at the Maples long-term care home were linked to an outbreak there between October 2020 and January 2021. The lawsuit names the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the home's former operator, Rivera, as defendants. It was certified by a Court of King's Bench justice earlier this month. Eddie Calisto Tavares' 88-year-old father died during the outbreak.
It feels good, not just for me, but for the many families. Because for me, it's always the reminder that we cannot forget what happened, that those residents, regardless of age and regardless of where they were in their life cycle, they mattered.
The health authority says it can't comment on matters before the courts. CBC has also reached out to Rivera for comment. The allegations in this lawsuit have not been tested in court. Hitting the ice for the very first time. Families new to Canada taking part in the 9th Welcome to Winnipeg event hosted by True North yesterday. Dozens of newcomers were taken by bus to Camp Manitu in Headingley. They tried skating, cross-country skiing, tobogganing, and snowshoeing. Rigobert Miti is originally from Congo.
In Winnipeg, it's not easy. Winnipeg is very, very cold. But as a first experience for me, so I like it. I like the weather here.
True North will host another Newcomer winter event in March. Well, speaking of winter sports, Canada has picked up its second medal at the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics.
You see Meg knowing that she has clinched that bronze medal.
just ecstatic.
24-year-old freestyle skier Megan Oldham from Parry Sound, Ontario, winning bronze in today's slopestyle final. Canada now has 2 medals at the game, both bronze. On the leaderboard, the host country Italy leads with 9 medals. Norway is next with 6. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather Wells.
Thank
And while I'm on thank yous, let's thank Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, Darren Bernhardt, also in our news department, Sarah Sanders and Darren Marash, and May McKillop on our live crew. Producers for today's show, Corey Funk and Leif Larson, the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Also May with an item in today's program, and Sophia Peralta Barone, one of our associate producers working on an item in today's show. So thanks to everybody. Want to mention quickly on Radio Noon today, they're going to be asking, what do you want to say to people on the other side of the border? This is prompted by Art City hosting a Send It to Minnesota event. They're inviting Winnipeggers to send a message to Minnesota through art. The art's going to go down to Articulture in Minneapolis, kind of the equivalent of Art City here. So both EDs are going to be on together. And interestingly enough, Articulture's pretty much located where a lot of the protest is happening right now in that city of Minneapolis, and where much of the George Floyd protest happened as well back in 2020. So this afternoon, what's your message to other people on the other side of the border right now? That's between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. I want to look at the forecast briefly before we go. What I'll say is snow in Thompson today, and in the south we're going to start with melting. Then we dip below 0 in Winnipeg, Brandon, so it could get a little icy out there. We leave you with 0 in Winnipeg, 1 in Brandon, and it is already snowing up in Thompson, and it's minus 16. Been there all morning long. Last word from the road to Sierra Sanders.
Yeah, so still hearing about that collision northbound Pembina and Grant. The curb lane and both middle lanes are blocked there, and hearing it is quite backed up pretty much all the way to Stafford and Pembina there. I took a quick look at Google's live traffic map. It is dark red, which means slow, so keep that in mind here as the morning commute continues here. Collision northbound Pembina and Grant, curb lane and both middle lanes are blocked. Thank you.
And that's all she wrote, everybody. And take care. We'll talk to you again tomorrow with another edition of Information Radio live from downtown Winnipeg. And stay right here on 89.3 because The Current is coming up next.